Ariaki starts off as someone with no special talent, and one day he gets kicked out of the hero party. Even after being kicked out, he doesn't seem to care much, which makes one of the party members, Harunoa Vivia, snap at him. He wants him to understand the position he's in, but Ariaki actually feels thankful to Vivia for freeing him from all that responsibility. Vivia's a true hero, chosen by the holy sword Ranguris, and she's strong enough to beat the demon lord. The other members back Vivia and think Ariaki's being rude for acting like nothing happened. Delia, another member, reminds Ariaki that the only reason he was part of the team was because they were from the same village. She says he's not even good enough to carry their trash. Delia's got the Blessed Fist skill and can boost her body to charge enemies. Elga is known as the Kingdom's Shield with insane strength and the Defend of giant skill. Palala's magical powers are said to be even stronger than the Demon Lord's, and she's got the Ace Wizard skill. Then there's Alicia, a legendary saint who can use recovery magic and even revival spells. She also sides with Vivia, and with Alicia's support, Vivia has the full team on her side. Ariaki thinks no guy would want a saint demanding he get kicked out. Hearing that, Alicia turns her head away and he can feel the hate coming from her. He's confused why she hates him since they've been together for so long. She used to follow him around and acted really shy, but now she's totally different. All of them grew up together in the village Ritonde, and that friendship helped form the party in the first place. Even after all this, Ariaki still doesn't understand why he's being kicked out, so he asks them directly. Vivia yells back that he's useless. He doesn't have any defense or attack powers, just assist magic for exploring and antidotes that anyone can use. She says his bad instincts only cause problems and that he's dead weight. Ariaki knows he doesn't have any powerful skills, but just as he's about to say something to warn them, Alicia stops him. She tells him to leave, saying he's not fit for the party. The pressure she gives off is so intense, he can't fight back. So, he walks away and starts his journey alone. He remembers why he even joined their party in the first place. He once had a dream where a god asked him to be their backup until the time came. Now he plans to head for a town called Alti, which will take him a month to reach. He walks through forests, but his thoughts keep drifting back to his old teammates. They always relied on him for organizing their inventory and handling preparations, stuff they're not good at. As he reaches the edge of the forest, sunlight hits him. He stretches his hand toward the sun. He tries to stop thinking about them and feels kind of relieved to be traveling on his own. Ariaki recalls his dream when a god appeared in his dream who asked him to help Vivia and others, otherwise they would die at a young age. He took advantage of Ariaki's kindness. God gave him the skill Backup, which is annoying to Ariaki. He has actually unique skill. He can do weapon and guard strengthening, speeding, and slowing down time, making recovery stronger, and other exploring skills of the dungeon. He never fought in front and worked in the shadows. Using judgment, the skill status can be seen, and when his skills were measured, his unique skill never showed up. Instead, bunch of useless skills were shown. To conceal his skills, he made his skills invisible until they reached a certain level through a concealment skill. He can do anything, but no one knows that, and it's kind of annoying to him. He is glad to have helped and protected his fellows. He thinks of himself being overprotective back then when was kicking out, but he wants them to be on their own as the time has finally come. He listens to someone calling him for help. He is surprised to know someone can get past his magic wall. Ariake asks if he is human, but he does not reply. Instead requests Ariake to eliminate him, as there is a curse cast upon him. Ariaki refuses him, to which he requests Ariaki again to eliminate him before he loses his pride in the dragon tribe. Ariaki cannot believe a pride species such as dragons would ask for help from humans. The dragon's voice seems to be in pain, but Ariaki does not want to fulfill Dragon's wish without knowing him, but if he asks for help, then it would be different. Being in a desperate position, he asks for help from Ariaki, who agrees to help. Ariaki walks toward the path where the voice had come from. A huge centipede pops up behind him, but he uses insect-repelling skills to eliminate the insects. He is not sure if he trusts the one called for help is dragon. When a dragon loses to a human, he submits himself to a human and acknowledges his strength. He assumes an evil mind behind the dragon. He reaches the front of the castle and sees the corpses of many men. There is a barrier around the palace, and Ariaki considers those men thieves who were trying to get into the palace, but failed due to the barrier. Soon, the corpses start to move on their foot, and a man appears. Ariaki takes him. a man having a necromancer's jewel to manipulate the corpses. That man brags to get his hands on the necklace so that he won't need any thieves and would use those corpses for the fight. Ariaki considers him garbage for using low-life tricks, and listening to him, that man charges his zombies to charge on Ariaki. That man calls himself lucky to control zombies as he likes, but Ariaki calls him unlucky to be beaten up by those zombies. Ariaki creates a magic circle for restoration skill and casts it on the group of zombies, who turn to dust in an instant. Seeing this trick, that man asks Ariaki who he is. Ariaki calls himself an ordinary person who is kicked out of a hero party and is good at carrying luggage. That guy never imagined some luggage carrier could pull off something that strong. Ariaki tells him it wasn't magic. It was a restoration skill that puts stuff back to its original state. So the zombies turn into plain corpses again, and the rotting bodies turn to dust. The guy's never even heard of that skill before. The zombies start crawling toward him and pull him in. Ariaki tells him the reason. When something turns to dust, it needs something else to balance out the loss. So the guy's out of options. He messed with the necromancer jewel and reanimated the dead, so now he's paying for it. The zombies slam into him, and Ariaki keeps walking toward the castle without giving the guy another glance. Nothing worth caring about. He looks at the barrier and thinks it'd be a mess if he tried to break it the usual way. Maybe there's a dungeon inside. So instead, he uses his skill, Metamorphose, and changes his body shape. He turns into a mole and tunnels underground. Barriers usually don't go underground, and whoever made this one probably didn't expect someone to burrow under it. Then again, not just anyone can turn into a mole. He makes it inside and finds the place is massive. No mid-tier adventurer would make it this far. In this world, adventurers are ranked from E up to A and S. The ranks are based on stuff like attack power, magic ability, and how tough the monsters are that you've taken down. Most people are ranked B or lower. The A ranks are strong enough to beat demon lords. The S ranks? Pretty rare. Alicia and Vivia are both S rank. Ariaki, though, is officially ranked C. Not that it means much to him. The whole system's flawed. It only cares about brute force and flashy magic. His job's to support and give others their shot. The system doesn't get people like him. While he's thinking about all that, he comes across two monsters standing guard. They ask if he's here to release the Red One of Disaster. He's caught off guard. They've got guards now. The monsters suddenly lunge at him. He quickly gauges them. They're level 60, enough power to wipe out a nation. He activates his atmosphere skill, throwing up an invisible air wall to block their hits. But the monsters aren't backing down just because he's a human. They power through the barrier like it's nothing. The monsters strike at him at the same time, and Ariaki blocks them. He suddenly vanishes and appears behind them, slicing the head off one monster. The other one asks who he is. Surprised that a guardian has been defeated, Ariaki tells them not to underestimate humans. They are not superior. He asks the guardian to open the door and trigger it by calling useless doll. That ticks the monster off, and it charges at him, but Ariaki had already planned everything. They were in his hands from the moment he created the atmosphere wall, making them see illusions and strike at fake targets. He had compressed the enemy's strike and sent it back using his damage reflecting skill. The monster is taken out by its own force, and Ariaki reaches the gate. When it opens, he sees a dungeon inside. Dungeons are like humans with their own thoughts. They send monsters after intruders and try to drain their bodies and magic to grow stronger. They use treasure chests as bait to lure people in. When someone moves toward the chest, a monster shows up to attack. As expected, one pops up and Ariaki defeats it. He moves forward and comes face to face with three great golems made of rock. Facing golems all at once is a bit much, and normally it would take an S-rank adventurer to even stand a chance. But for him, those ranks don't mean anything. Ariaki is surprised to see a dragon girl trapped inside a crystal. The priest starts bragging about his genius plan, saying he will use a rare dragon breed to evolve into a god, and wants praise from Ariaki. But Ariaki gets pissed that the priest is acting all superior and calls him out for locking up a young girl for so long. He tells him it's unforgivable and that he's just a criminal. The priest doesn't get why he's being called that just for capturing one dragon. Ariaki tells him straight that facts are facts, and whether it's a cat or a dragon, it's still wrong. He figures it's hard for a lunatic like the priest to understand simple things like that. The priest gets triggered, yelling that Ariaki is mocking him and deserves to die. He attacks, but Ariaki blocks the blow easily. The priest thinks Ariaki used some kind of barrier and starts talking more trash, but a counterstrike flies past him and slices his cheek. When the smoke clears, Ariaki is standing there, not a scratch on him and unarmed. Ariaki mocks him again, saying he thought the priest would be stronger since he was stealing power from a dragon, but that last attack was weak. The priest pulls the dragon girl out of the crystal and threatens Ariaki, saying if he doesn't back off, she'll be hurt. If he drains all her power, her arms will rot and fall off. Ariaki agrees not to make a move and says he'll prove it by turning off his magic and skills. He activates his skill and the priest starts yelling that he's dead now. Suddenly, the magic crystal holding the girl falls and crashes into the priest, injuring his arm. He's confused, since the crystal should have stayed up with his magic. Ariaki tells him that his nullification skill shut down all magic in the area, including the priest's. Ariaki shoves the priest out of the way and heads to the crystal. The priest says it's unbreakable, but Ariaki smashes it with his bare hands since the magic holding it together is gone. He gently places the dragon girl somewhere safe. The priest tells him not to touch his thing, but Ariaki shuts him up and says to stop calling her that. He ties the priest up with ropes and walks over to the girl. He wakes her and leans close to examine her using his skill. But she gets flustered being so close to a guy and backs away, clearly embarrassed. She says she didn't think anyone would come to save her and that she has nothing to give in return. Ariaki tells her he doesn't need anything. When she spots the priest, she yells at him, asking how he dared to lock her up for 1,000 years and steal her powers. She wants payback and tries to stand, but she's too weak to move. She's frustrated at how pathetic she's become, saying she's useless now that her powers are gone. Ariaki asks her what powers she had. She explains that to be called a dragon, you need 4 main powers: longevity, regeneration, destruction, and sky domination. She's not sure if a human could become a dragon, but dragons with royal blood are related to gods. She says she's from the royal line, the youngest daughter of the Dragon King, the highest of the dragon clan. But she was a failure. Her powers were weak. She couldn't grow massive and stayed in human form. Her clan cast her out, calling her a disgrace to their bloodline. Later, she was captured and her powers were taken away. She says she's not even a dragon anymore. She starts crying and begs Ariaki to end her life. She says she's lost her pride as a dragon and doesn't want to keep living. Ariaki doesn't take her wish seriously and lightly bops her on the head with his finger to calm her down. He reminds her why he came to save her in the first place. She insists that even if she got her powers back, she'd still be weak. Ariaki decides to test something on her. He wants to try to restore her powers and break the curse of weakness. As he says this, he activates a glowing skill circle on the ground beneath her. The dragon girl looks stunned when she hears she's cursed. Ariaki tells her that after checking with his status abnormality perception and concealment cancellation, he found a rare curse has been put on her. If he removes it, her powers will come back. He just needs to do a little backup. He activates remove curse and restoration together, then throws in speed up time to make the process faster. It's extremely painful for her. She feels something coming up her throat, then suddenly collapses onto him. She wakes up almost right away, which surprises him. He didn't expect her to recover that quickly. When she looks up, she sees the curse. It's a tiny creature, way too intricate for normal judgment skills to catch. It's called Anti-Dragon. It drains a dragon's power and takes away their very reason for living. The curse doesn't go back into her, it jumps into the priest instead. That confirms it. Once it's removed from someone, it can't get back in. She can already feel her powers returning. Thanks to her regeneration, she heals fast. Energy surges from her and she shoots a blast that completely destroys the building's roof. She's excited to feel so powerful again and calls Ariaki master. She shyly asks him what he thinks of her appearance now. He doesn't say much, which makes her a little sad. She says her body before all this power felt better. Ariaki tells her he always thought she looked beautiful, before and after regaining her strength. She asks if he can check her status and he gets her permission. When he does, he's blown away. Her magic and attack stats are off the charts. One thing in the judgment stands out: a title, a divine dragon who has gained rider. He doesn't really get what divine dragon means, but he knows one thing: she's strong. She explains that when a dragon and their rider become close, the rider becomes a dragon knight, and dragons who bond with one gain a higher status. It's not something that happens easily. It's tied to gods and fate. and she doesn't believe being close to him automatically makes her a divine dragon. He asks if maybe he was the one who awakened that divine thing in her. She nods. She can feel divine energy coming from him. He remembers the god from his dream and starts thinking. Then he asks why he's been marked as her knight. She tells him they're fated partners. After that, they exchange names. She tells him she's Colette Dubois, daughter of the ruler of dragons. As she starts following him, he tries to stop her. She gets teary-eyed, saying he's her fated dragon knight and shouldn't abandon her like this. Ariaki tells her she should go back home now that her powers are back, but she refuses. She was banished, and she's sure someone from her village is behind her curse. If she goes back, they'll just treat her as a nuisance. Especially with the Dragon King election going on. He listens to all of it, thinks for a moment, then agrees to let her stay with him. But he knows one thing. It's going to be tough traveling with such a pretty girl, since they're definitely going to attract attention. On the way to their next stop, Colette gets mad thinking about how Ariaki got kicked out of the hero party, even though he supported them all the way. Ariaki, on the other hand, finds a bit of peace in knowing those guys have to move forward without his help now. Getting kicked out has turned into a weirdly good memory. Colette's curious if he had any girls in that old party. He tells her there were 3. She instantly gets fired up and swears she won't lose to them. Meanwhile, the hero party is celebrating that Ariaki is finally gone. Vivia checks with Alicia, who's off to the side looking out the window. She agrees, saying a party without a hero is meaningless, but her mood doesn't match the others. Vivia claims everything will be fine as long as he's there and decides to warm up by raiding the cursed cave again, the same place they already cleared once before. They all agree it'll be easy now without Ariaki. Alicia mumbles that they're missing something. Even though she doesn't say it out loud, she's clearly thinking of him. Back with Ariaki and Colette, they arrive in Medicine Town. It's not Alti yet, but after all the camping, they figure it's a good time to rest. Colette is blown away by the town. Everything's changed in 1,000 years. She's all smiles and energy, and they're catching a lot of attention. She even calls him hubby, which gets him flustered. He tells her to cut it out unless she wants to be really noticeable. She agrees, if he promises to go wherever she wants. They end up at a restaurant, and as expected of a dragon, she eats like crazy. Ariaki finds it weird that even though the food's good, the place is completely empty. The waiter explains it's because of the Devil's Forest that popped up nearby. The kingdom's already sent out the Night Corps and all the local businesses are shutting down. He suggests they leave if they don't want trouble. Colette asks Ariaki about the Devil's Forest, and he explains it's a nest of monsters made by the Demon Lord. The danger level rises in 5 stages. If the boss deep inside isn't taken out in the early stages, the forest grows, and the monsters get even stronger. Right now, it's still at stage 1, bad but manageable. If it gets worse, actual heroes will be sent in. To stay on top of things, they head to the Adventurers Guild to get more info. The place is packed with other adventurers and feels tense. Ariaki gives his name at the front desk, and the receptionist freezes. He's told to wait because there's a message from the king. Soon, a big guy comes out, the guild leader, and tells Ariaki his license has been revoked. It's official. That kind of punishment usually only happens to criminals. Ariaki figured maybe he'd get dropped to E rank, but losing his license entirely means he can't even buy basic supplies now. Still, instead of being upset, he seems amused. He knows the Devil's Forest is serious, and everyone's going to be needed. He asks if the king really thought this through when they revoked his license. The guild guy just tells him flat out, Ariaki was kicked out of the party, and now he's not needed. The king's corps are already heading to the forest. If anything happens, the adventurers will clean up afterward. After the corps take down the boss, then adventurers can handle the leftovers. The rest of the guild members side with the guild guy and back him up. Ariaki starts wondering why the king would send his own corps instead of the hero party. As he and Colette are about to leave, a knight barges in, totally covered in blood. He shouts that the mission failed. The Devil's Forest monsters are on their way here, and the Night Corps is wiped out. He announces that the kingdom is ordering an emergency defense. Anyone who deserts will be executed. The guild erupts. The adventurers are freaking out that even the knights lost, and now they're being forced to stay and fight. They were told this would be an easy job. Ariaki checks the knight and sees he's still alive. Looks like the Corps dragged the monsters right back with them. Colette asks if he could wipe out the forest himself, and Ariaki admits he could. But he doesn't want to be the center of attention. The guild leader slams his table and tries to calm the room down, telling everyone to focus and do something. But the adventurers are all panicking, worried about their own skins. While they're losing it, Ariaki calmly steps forward and drops a big sack of coins on the counter. He tells the guild leader he's still here to do his part, and it's time to leave the rest up to him. The guild leader asks Ariaki what he thinks he can do when a whole horde of monsters is on its way. Ariaki finds out that the guild was offering only 1 gold coin for the cleanup operation. It's a joke, considering the adventurers are risking their lives. So, Ariaki steps up in front of everyone and does a quick head count. Then he pulls a coin out of his sack and tosses it. He makes a bold offer. Anyone who stays and fights until the end gets 100 gold coins. At first, the adventurers think he's bluffing, but then he drops the real deal. He's putting the reward under the kingdom's covenant status. That's basically a magical contract. Once it's declared, there's no backing out. It's like a curse. That changes everything. Now all these adventurers who were ready to bolt start imagining what they could do with that much gold. With everyone's attention locked in, Ariaki fires them up more. The kingdom's cores are done for, and now it's up to them to protect their city, their homes, and their families. He tells them straight up, they need to risk it all, fight for their reward, and make sure the town survives. The room heats up fast. Morale shoots through the roof. Everyone starts grabbing their gear and getting into formation. Ariaki watches as the guild leader coordinates the preparations smoothly. The leader comes over to thank him, saying he never expected anyone to listen to a guy with a revoked license and C rank. But Ariaki looked like a god up there. That's when Colette snaps. She's still mad at the leader for calling Ariaki useless and says she hasn't forgiven him yet for making fun of him and assuming he'd only move for money. Ariaki admits he was lured by the money, but that's the point. Money lets people live. If you're going to send people to their deaths, you better pay them right. 1 gold coin? That's just insanity. Colette's surprised to learn Ariaki saved up that much money from quests. The hero party always took high-stakes, high-paying jobs. The leader asks why Ariaki's going this far if he has no connection to the town. Ariaki just points at a little restaurant and says if he can't eat his favorite pasta there again, that'd be a real tragedy. The leader chuckles and promises him a plate if they both make it back alive. Once everyone's prepped, the leader gives his own speech. They're the last line of defense. The plan is simple. Those who can fight will hold the front, while healers and magicians support from behind. The battle kicks off, and the whole situation looks grim. The enemy already wiped out the kingdom core. There's no choice but to win or die trying. Colette gets worried. She can tell from the tremors there are thousands of monsters coming and they've only got 100 adventurers. She asks if Ariaki's really not going to step in. He explains that if one person does everything, no one else learns. They won't grow. They'll freeze next time it happens. People need to earn their confidence by surviving real battles. Still, since he's technically helping his allies, he's not breaking any rules by stepping in. As the fighting rages on, adventurers start falling left and right. The guild leader tells his team to pull back and heal. Then he hears the worst. The entire left wing is collapsing. A third of it is gone, and the Neguel brothers are down. The pressure keeps piling on, and now even the leader's overwhelmed. Then an ogre shows up. One roar from the beast freezes everyone in place. Just as a monster lunges for an elf woman, Ariaki swoops in and saves her at the last second. The leader yells at him, asking what a C-rank guy's doing on the front lines. Ariaki just shrugs and says he feels responsible. He's the one who asked them to fight. Now, it's on him to make sure they win. To boost the warriors' morale, Ariaki tells them they are halfway to victory and urges them to stand on their own feet. As he speaks, he activates his skill, Mental Resistance Up. This skill cancels out their paralysis and brightens their bodies, breaking through the ogre's fear effect. Colette steps up too. She takes a deep breath, then exhales a long-range fire attack at the monsters. With the help of Ariaki and Colette, the adventurers catch a moment of relief. However, the enemy's advance does not stop. Ariaki tells the leader that it is hard to turn the tide through tactics alone due to the sheer difference in numbers. He says the only way to win is to raise the adventurers' stats to 10 times their normal strength while reducing the enemies to a 10th. The leader doubts Ariaki can cast such wide-range effects on so many people and enemies, but Ariaki is confident. He starts by activating full body, which affects everyone within its range. He knows there are over 100 adventurers, but he is prepared. He then adds damage reduction, which makes everyone more durable. The leader notices his own skin hardening from the effect. Ariaki continues by activating more enhancements. He boosts movement speed, sharpens evasion accuracy, and stacks up to 20 different power-ups. When the monster horde arrives again, the adventurers charge in. To their surprise, they manage to fight back with ease. Their attacks are sharper, their defense is stronger, and they no longer feel helpless. Even the leader, swinging his sword, realizes how light it feels. He once believed that people could only use 3 skills at most, yet Ariake has cast 20. Ariake casually mentions that he always uses this many skills, sometimes even more. The adventurers now understand that the reason the hero party always won battles was because of Ariake. Colette gets furious at the thought. Ariake supported them through everything, yet they cast him aside. Ariake gently tells her to stop. He says the hero party simply chose to continue without him, and he chose to respect their decision. To him, it was like leaving his children behind as a parent. As he speaks about them, he starts worrying again about how they're doing. Back in the fight, the adventurers continue holding off the monsters. They notice the ogre hasn't moved much. He must have assumed his disposable minions would take care of the humans. However, Ariake observes that ogre-type monsters are usually seen in later stages, not this early. This means the threat is already at the 2nd stage or beyond. Colette, full of energy, prepares to attack. Ariake gives her the signal to go. She charges at the ogre, and when it swings its arm, she catches it, then jumps up and slams a punch into its mouth. Ariake powers himself up as well. He reinforces his muscles to strengthen his body, then launches himself at the ogre. His kick knocks the creature to the ground, but on its way down, the ogre grabs Colette and slams her into the ground. This only fuels her rage, and she prepares to unleash more of her strength. Ariake also decides to fight with everything he has. After all, he is her Dragon Knight. With their boosted strength, the adventurers split into left and right wings and manage to wipe out most of the monsters on their ends. Now, they need to back up the central team inside the Devil Forest. The only one left standing there is the ogre, who lets out another thunderous roar that sends fresh waves of fear through everyone. Colette is already locked in battle with the ogre, but Ariake grows concerned. She just recently got her powers and earned the Divine Dragon title. But whether she can fully control that power is still uncertain. He activates enhancement skills on her, expanding her strength. She can feel the energy rising inside her, and Ariake can sense it too. It is like they are resonating with one another. A divine dragon draws power from its rider and turns it into her own. Ariake gives her the signal to use his power however she wants. Then he casts a skill called Decisive Battle on her. She transforms into a massive god-gespent dragon. This skill allows the person it's cast on to unlock their true potential. Soaring into the sky, she lets loose a burst of fire straight down at the ogre. The attack wipes him from existence. Not even ashes remain. With the ogre gone, the threat is finally over. She reverts back into her human form and collapses into Ariake's arms. Just then, a signal flares up from the central region of the forest. It's a sign that the adventurers in that zone have also cleaned up the last of the enemies. Everyone looks around in disbelief. Somehow, they've won. Some call it a miracle, but Ariake steps up and tells them not to think of this victory as coincidence. They stood their ground, even when the odds were against them. It was their courage and determination that led to this result. The adventurers cheer and return as heroes. Ariake and Colette get ready to head out toward their next stop, but the others hold them back. Several adventurers express their gratitude, and the guild leader himself steps forward to apologize for how he treated Ariake earlier. He says he is officially taking back the license revocation, and has already sent a letter of protest to the kingdom on behalf of the entire town. He also offers to treat Ariake to a proper meal next time, on his own dime. Ariake and Colette resume their journey, this time riding cattle provided by the town, with warm thanks from everyone seeing them off. On the road, Colette can't hide her joy over having turned into a divine dragon. She's proud that Ariake was the one who helped her draw out that power. They also now carry a letter of introduction that will help them stay in the next destination, Ordentown. To get there, they have to cross through the fertile Great Forest, home of the elves. Ariaki recalls that elves are known for being difficult to deal with. They have a moody nature and aren't very approachable. Colette brushes off his concern and says that if anything happens, she'll just burn them. Ariaki sighs and tells her not to always rely on fire. He starts thinking again about Vivia and the rest. It's strange they weren't summoned for the Devil Forest subjugation. They should be nearby, maybe stationed in a neighboring town. Still, he pushes the thought aside. Maybe he's overthinking it. Colette hands him something to eat and helps him refocus. He figures that if it's Vivia and the others, they should be able to manage just fine. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Vivia is seen barely hanging on. He is covered in blood and struggling to stay conscious. He can't understand how things got this bad. After all, he's supposed to be the hero. But if this keeps going, none of them will make it out alive. Vivia, Delia, and Elga run through a dark cave. Elga tries to tell Vivia that Alicia and Plara still haven't come back, but Vivia snaps at her to keep running if she wants to escape the monsters. A blow lands on Vivia, and Elga jumps in with her shield to protect him. Vivia yells at him again, saying not to get pushed back since he's supposed to be Vivia's shield. He's already out of healing potions and low on health. He just doesn't get how things have come to this, being an S rank. It was supposed to be a warm-up. A few hours earlier, they stood in front of the cursed cave. Vivia had announced they were heading to the 50th floor just for warm-up. He figured the level was fit for C ranks, so it'd be easy for them. Alicia asked if they'd restocked and prepped. Vivia, full of himself, brushed it off, saying it was pointless for a low-level dungeon. Alicia warned them again since they didn't have Ariaki anymore, but Vivia laughed it off and told her not to be dramatic. Plara chimed in too, accusing Alicia of being stingy with healing and always making them stock up on items. Vivia got everyone fired up, saying the girls loved him anyway, so they should just obey and use their powers for him. Alicia was still out of reach for him, but one day he was sure she'd give in. He was the chosen hero after all. He had big dreams, defeating the demon lord, saving the world, marrying a princess, and ruling the kingdom. To him, it was only natural. Even then, Alicia still looked uneasy, but she gave her warning and stayed quiet. They stepped into the cave. The light Plara had summoned was weak, which annoyed Vivia. He yelled at her to fix it, but she said that was her limit. He couldn't believe it. Ariake used to light up the whole cave easily. Alicia added that no one else could do what Ariake did. She recalled him saying dungeons were like living creatures with their own flow of magic. That meant any magic used in them would be weaker. Then a monster hit Vivia. Elga managed to shield him in time, and Delia jumped in, punching back. The monster didn't go down. Instead, it landed a heavy hit. Delia followed up with a strong punch and finally brought it down. They didn't understand why it was so hard to beat. The monster's attack felt too strong. Vivia blamed the dim lighting. Plara could feel the pressure and froze for a moment, but Vivia got a grip and praised her to keep her going. He pushed forward, saying they could still see their feet, and that was enough. Alicia stayed cautious. She reminded them that they weren't used to fighting in low visibility. It'd be better to go back, think through a new strategy, and come again. Vivia didn't want to hear it. Retreating meant showing their backs to monsters, and that was dangerous. He'd already made up his mind. The rest of the girls followed without question, but Alicia turned around, heading toward the exit. That pushed Vivia over the edge. He thought she had been defiant from the start. He hated how she spoke her mind, and then stayed silent when it mattered. His pride as an S rank wouldn't allow him to quit in a C rank dungeon. If he did, not only would he lose face in the kingdom, but society would also mock him. They continued, but soon realized they had come full circle. Vivia snapped at Plara, asking how that was possible. She blamed the dim light, but Vivia reminded her they had a map. Ariake never got them lost like this. Alicia quietly placed her hand on a small mark, probably left behind by Ariake. She told them if they kept straight and turned after a bit, there should be stairs heading down. Vivia ordered them to follow that path. Alicia asked if he was really prepared. They were only on the 25th floor and already struggling. Was he ready to drag the party through more? If Ariake were here, he would have told them to fall back. Vivia twisted her words, accusing her of telling them to advance, and she clarified that she meant to move forward carefully. Things were going to get worse. Vivia wasn't hearing it anymore. He didn't want Ariaki's name brought up again. That guy wasn't even here. It just annoyed him. He shouted for her to shut up and keep moving. Suddenly they all felt a terrifying presence. The girls guessed it was a boss, but Vivia dismissed it. This was a low-level dungeon. Then a skeleton knight appeared. Vivia relaxed a bit, thinking it was nothing. He rushed in and slashed its head off, but the knight didn't fall. Instead, it stabbed Vivia. He stood there, stunned, trying to process how a headless skeleton could still move. It made no sense to him. That strike should have ended it. But instead, he stood there, stomach pierced, facing a living nightmare. Vivia feels an intense, stabbing pain shooting through his body, leaving him unable to move a muscle. Elga rushes in and strikes the knight to defend him, but the skeleton is fast. He dodges the hit and backs off easily. Delia and the others can't believe how quickly the knight attacked Vivia and escaped Elga's blow. They all start questioning if this knight was ever supposed to be this powerful. Clara doesn't want to believe it. To her, this was just a weak enemy, the kind a level 20 adventurer could squash with one hit. The knight turns and strikes Elga next. Elga gets knocked back hard. Even with all that happening, Vivia keeps yelling at him to stand up and fight. Elga finally snaps and tells him to shut it. He asks Vivia why he's still acting like he's in charge when he's the one who got them into this mess in the first place. Since when did Vivia start thinking he was important? While the two of them go back and forth, Delia charges her strongest punch and slams it into the knight, but it doesn't even faze him. She's stunned. Then the knight counters, and she gets sent flying across the cave, landing hard. Clara can't wrap her head around it. How could Delia be in critical shape after a hit from a low-rank skeleton knight? There wasn't even any chanting. The whole situation feels off to her. Vivia demands Clara use her support magic again. She tells him that she already cast both offense and defense boosts earlier. Hearing that, Vivia loses it. He starts screaming, overwhelmed and panicked that they've already used up everything. None of it makes sense to him anymore. Then Alicia arrives. She starts healing them using a skill called Angel's Breath. When Vivia asks what the hell is happening, Alicia tells him it's simple. It's because Ariaki isn't here. Vivia snaps at her again, asking why she's even bringing that guy up. To him, Ariake was nothing but a loser who always hid at the back. Alicia ignores his rant and throws some holy water at the knight. It doesn't finish the monster off, but it manages to stop its movement. She tells the others that the only reason their powers used to work so well was because of Ariaki. His support skills were on a whole different level. Because of him, even someone ordinary could fight like an A rank. Vivia can't believe what she's saying. He insists that he earned his rank through hard training. Alicia just gives him a side glance. She reminds him that Ariaki tried to explain this before too, but nobody ever listened. Not then, not now. She gets a little flustered, thinking about it. Nobody appreciated those small, important things Ariaki did for them. Pulling herself together, she tells everyone she's done healing them. They need to get it together now, because she has to rebuild their formation from scratch. Without Ariaki, she's not even sure if they can pull off a safe retreat. Everyone freezes when she says that word. Retreat. Alicia warns them that if they keep pushing forward, they're just heading toward death. Vivia doesn't want to hear it. They've already made it to the 15th floor. He wants Alicia to stop complaining and just use her energy to heal them again. But she's not having it. She knows better than to throw around her magic recklessly. They've already taken way too much damage, and if she uses more magic, it'll start hurting her too. Vivia tries to lean on magic items, but they're running out of those too. That would mean Clara has to use her own magic supply. Alicia tells him it's no use. Clara's magic reserve is drained. The only reason she was able to stockpile any in the first place was because Ariaki had used a magic restoration skill on her. That throws Clara into a rage. She pulls back her fist, ready to punch Alicia. But before she can, a deep voice cuts through the tension, telling them to shut up. Their yelling had disturbed someone's sleep. A monster steps into view. One that shouldn't be there. It's Fenrir, the beast usually found guarding the 99th floor. But somehow, he's here. They're all stunned when they see Fenrir standing in front of them. None of them expected to come across a monster like him down here. He says he was just looking for something to eat. but now that he's found them, they'll do just fine. Vivia starts to feel a deep fear creeping in from Fenrir's bloodlust. If they were still as strong as they used to be, maybe they could have handled this, but now, the only option left is to run. Vivia looks around at the others, trying to figure out who's most useful for retreat. He quickly decides. Everyone can still move except for Plara. He grabs some items from her without asking and tells the rest they're leaving her behind. She's already out of magic, so it makes sense for the rest of them to escape. With their strength, they can call for help later. Delia hesitates, but the pressure is too much, and she agrees with Vivia. Vivia crouches down and tells Plara to hang on and endure it. She just needs to stall long enough for them to get away and bring reinforcements. Alicia doesn't agree at all. She refuses to run and sets up a magic barrier instead. Vivia sees it as a chance to escape safely, so he and the others take off. Plara screams after them, begging them not to leave her like this. She reminds them she's part of their team, but nobody stops. She curses them all and wishes death on them. Then, behind her, Fenrir steps closer, his presence alone overwhelming. He says if it were him, he would have just killed them instantly instead of wasting time with curses. Alicia watches Fenrir and notices something odd. He's unusually calm for a monster. She sighs and admits she has zero motivation to do anything without Ariaki. Plara starts freaking out and yells at her not to talk so casually when there's a monster about to kill them. Alicia glances at her and tells her to shut it. She takes a breath and decides she's not dying just yet. Fenrir senses the shift in her. He asks if she's planning on fighting for revenge or if it's some noble duty to save the world. But Alicia doesn't care about any of that. She has one goal. She just wants to see Ariaki and be all lovey-dovey with him. That answer stuns both Plara and Fenrir. Alicia starts blushing, lost in her daydream about Ariaki. Plara can't believe she's in love with someone like him. Alicia tells her not to speak badly about the person she loves. She admits that maybe Ariaki's power wasn't a unique skill in the traditional sense. According to her theory, Ariaki himself is what's unique. Then she randomly asks Fenrir for forgiveness and says she wants to tell him a story. Fenrir is surprised, but decides to humor her since he finds her interesting. She tells him she's read through every book she could find across the subcontinent and has come to one conclusion. Ariaki has a skill called the God that serves next to you. She explains how, when they were kids, they used to hear stories from their grannies about a hero who would appear when the world needed saving. This hero would be helped by a god who stood beside him, always offering guidance and support. According to Alicia, Ariaki is just like that, chosen by a god. She says they would never have been able to beat monsters without his help, whether it was boosting their stats, managing items, or guiding them through dungeons. Ariaki was the one who held everything together. The fact they're now in a mess like this proves how much he did for them. Fenrir tells them their time's up, but Alicia doesn't back down. She throws some magical items at Plara and tells her to use them if she wants to survive. Otherwise, she'll be the first to die. Alicia tries to reason with Fenrir, asking him to leave them alone, but he's not interested. He says he's been stuck in the dungeon forever and is just trying to kill his boredom. He lets out a huge roar that shakes the whole place. Terrified, Plara grabs all the items Alicia gave her and runs off. The magic barrier breaks, and Fenrir now has a clear path to chase after Vivia and the others. That's when Alicia's whole demeanor changes. The air around her feels different. She never cared about the rest of the party. The barrier wasn't for their protection. It was so they wouldn't interrupt her. Fenrir suddenly gets a bad feeling from her. He attacks first and throws a punch, but Alicia blocks it with ease. She looks at him calmly and asks if he really thought he could take her down with one hit. Then she kicks his leg away and gets ready to throw down for real. Alicia swings her staff hard and sends Fenrir flying. He crashes into the wall, stunned that a human like her actually managed to knock him back. Alicia casually brags that it was just her weakest strike. She could have done even better if she had Ariaki's power boosting her. She goes in again, swinging her cane, and Fenrir dodges it, still trying to figure out where all that strength is coming from. Alicia tells him it's the result of brutal training. Fenrir thinks she's messing with him, but she's dead serious. She worked herself to the point of coughing up blood just to get that strong. He can't wrap his head around why she would push herself that far, so she starts talking about Ariaki again. He's the one who told her to gain strength. If she wants to stand beside him, she can't afford to be weak or drag him down. Fenrir remembers how others call her the Great Saintess and asks if Ariaki is really stronger than her. She doesn't hesitate. She says she wants to spend her whole life with Ariaki. She even gives her power a name, the power of love, born from struggle and pain. Fenrir actually finds her pretty amusing. He says he hasn't come across anyone this weird or interesting in all the years he's been sealed in this cave. That part surprises Alicia. She didn't know he was sealed away. She asks him why, and Fenrir explains that he was locked up long ago. His one wish was to meet someone strong, fight them, and then be erased from the world. Alicia completely disagrees. She says she's sure Ariaki wouldn't want that either. She makes a deal with him. If she wins their fight, he has to grant her one wish. Fenrir agrees. He's tired and has no reason to break his promise now. They battle hard, and in the end, Fenrir loses. He keeps his word and asks what she wants. A miracle drug? A legendary sword? Something rare he once swallowed? But Alicia surprises him. She wants him to become her familiar. She points out that he's been stuck in that cave forever and clearly bored out of his mind. Plus, having him around would make her look cool. Fenrir says he doesn't mind being a familiar, but he's cursed. If he steps outside the cave while alive, he'll die. Even so, he apologizes that he can't travel with her, even if he'd like to. Alicia's not giving up though. Her plan is simple. He dies temporarily, and she puts him in her item box. Then, within the next couple of hours, she can bring him back using resurrection magic. Fenrir is stunned. He's never seen anyone use that kind of magic before. Ariaki once praised her for it, and she learned how to handle the item box from him too. This would be the first time she actually uses her magic together with one of Ariaki's ideas. Fenrir says he feels fulfilled. Whether he lives or dies now doesn't matter much. But if she does bring him back, he'll finally get to meet the guy she's always talking about. Then he drops another surprise. He's actually female. She can even take on human form. Alicia goes silent for a second, now worried about what might happen when Fenrir meets Ariaki. What if he finds her attractive? Even so, she's excited to show Ariaki her new familiar. Later, she returns to the hero party and announces that she's leaving. She's injured and not going to fight anymore. She says this is the perfect excuse to step away. It was tough for her to make this decision since she's known as the Great Saintess, but now's her chance. Her eyes land on Plara, who somehow made it out of the cave. Elga seems concerned and says Alicia's presence would have helped in the next quest. Vivia, on the other hand, brings out a letter from the kingdom. It says his holy sword, Ranguris, is being confiscated. To get it back, he has to complete a D-rank quest. It's punishment for retreating from the dungeon. Vivia's not happy about it. He thinks it's unfair to be forced into a sudden quest like this. Plara says it's a big deal. A hero who abandons his comrades doesn't deserve to wield a sacred sword anyway. Vivia fires back, blaming Plara for leaving Alicia behind. They argue until Elga cuts in and tells them to quit it. They should be focusing on recruiting new members. Turns out they've already added someone new, a porter named Bashuta. Vivia just wants to finish this stupid quest and get the kingdom to apologize. As Alicia turns to leave, Vivia tells her his spot will always be open for her. She gives him a polite smile, says nothing, and walks away. Now free from the hero party, Alicia feels lighter. She can finally go where she wants, and that means heading straight for Ariake. Meanwhile, at that same time, Ariaki and Colette are busy protecting Medicine Town from monsters. Ariaki has no idea that Vivia's sword has been confiscated. Right now, he and Colette are standing at the entrance of the fertile Great Woods, but they're not alone. A group of elves is blocking their path, ready to fight. The elves guarding the forest step forward, and one of them introduces himself before saying their leader, 11 Chief Hayes, wants to speak with Ariaki. Colette immediately bristles at the demand, and in response, the elves fire arrows at them. Colette quickly inhales deeply and breathes fire back, burning their bows to ashes. Ariaki steps in and apologizes on her behalf. He asks the elves to calm down and explain what's going on, but they remain suspicious and cast a Wind King barrier, warning that if it's touched, it'll blow anyone away. They demand that Ariaki and Colette surrender. That tells Ariaki something must be seriously wrong. The fact they're using their strongest defensive spell just to trap him shows how desperate they are. If he's taken in like this, he won't be able to talk his way through it. He decides to prove he means no harm. He stretches his arm into the barrier and takes the blow on purpose, getting hurt in the process. Their chanting halts, and one of the elves rushes over to check if he's still alive. Ariaki had used a reinforcement skill beforehand to brace himself. He did it just to show that he's not a threat, and even now, if they still see him as a danger, he wants them to see what he's willing to endure to prove otherwise. That's when a girl named Sella appears and orders the other elves to stop mistreating him and Colette. She's the younger sister of the elf tribe's chief and kneels before Ariaki to apologize on behalf of her people. One of the other elves tries to stop her, telling her not to bow to humans, but Sella calmly tells them to mind their words. She introduces Ariaki and Colette as the heroes who saved Medicine Town from a monster invasion. Word has already spread about them. She also reveals she was the elf Ariaki rescued during the Devil Forest battle. Her look was different back then. She's always been skilled at disguising herself when venturing out. Because of Sella's request, the elves agree to let Ariake and Colette enter the village. They've already told the village chief about Ariake, calling him the walking disaster. The village itself is stunning, but as they walk through it, Ariake notices how the other elves close their windows when they see him. Colette looks over at the lake and sees it filled with logs. Sella tells her they're dead trees, washed down from upstream. Sella brings them to her home and serves a delicious meal. Once they're seated, Ariaki brings up what's bothering him most. He wants to know why they're calling him the walking disaster. Sella explains the forest has started to wither. Many trees are dying, and there's a strange, ominous air hanging over the center. Monsters have begun appearing from that same area. Ariaki suspects it's the lingering effects of some kind of magical energy. Sella goes on to say, her brother dug through all their records and concluded that Ariaki became a disaster the moment he was kicked out of the hero party. Ariaki asks if this has something to do with the pact between the elves and the hero party. That pact was made to protect the Great Forest after it received a holy blessing. Because of it, the elves, who normally hated humans, started viewing the hero in a positive light and allowed them to travel freely through the forest. That same agreement now applies to the current hero, Vivia. So if Ariaki was exiled, he might be seen as a threat by both the new hero and the elves, just because of the pact. Colette agrees the timing lines up, but it doesn't mean Ariaki caused the disasters. Sella says her brother can't tell right from wrong anymore. His judgment is clouded. She, on the other hand, believes Ariaki is a bringer of hope. She gets down on her knees again and pleads with him to help the village. That's when her brother, Hayes, arrives. He's furious. Not only has Sella brought the so-called walking disaster into their village, but she's also asked him for help. Without a word, he shackles her hands and says she'll stay confined until she cools her head. Ariaki calmly steps forward, breaks the shackles, and tells Hayes to sit down. It's time they had a proper conversation. Ariaki breaks the shackles on Sella's wrists, calmly telling her she won't be needing them anymore. He adds that the so-called calamity everyone's afraid of is standing right behind him. That comment sends Hayes into a rage. He grabs Ariaki by the collar and slams him onto the table. To Hayes, Ariaki is nothing more than trash, a reject who got kicked out of the hero party. He sees his presence in the village as nothing but arrogance. But before he can go further, Colette steps in, her intimidating aura heavy enough for Hayes to feel it in his bones. He pauses for a moment. Ariaki glances over and asks her to relax, telling her he's okay. That moment of hesitation fades quickly. Hayes still sees Ariaki as a powerless nobody and immediately orders his men to capture both Ariaki and Colette. A squad of armed elves storms in. Without wasting time, Sella grabs both of them and leaps through the window. She's surprisingly agile. This kind of escape isn't new to her. She's used to sneaking out whenever she feels like going on an adventure. As they sprint across an open field, Hayes catches up. He points at Ariaki and accuses him of seducing his sister and dragging her away. At first, his plan was to take Ariaki alive so he could figure out if the forest's withering had something to do with him. But now he's done playing nice. With no hesitation, Hayes unleashes a massive wind spell, far stronger than a regular barrier. It obliterates everything in its path, seemingly wiping out Ariake and Colette completely. But the next moment they reappear, right behind him. Turns out, Ariake had activated his skill, Decoy, creating a perfect clone to draw Hayes' attention. While the clone got blasted, he and Colette used stealth to sneak behind him. Last time, he tried negotiating after being trapped by a barrier. This time, he used the chaos to disable it entirely. Now, Ariake has stopped running. He's ready to be thrown into his brother's jail. Hayes sees this as his opportunity. If the forest stops dying after Ariake is locked away, then he'll have his answer. The elf prison cells are built to reflect any kind of magic, making outside contact completely impossible. Hayes believes once Ariake is inside, all misfortune will vanish, but Ariake looks him in the eye and tells him to stop relying on rumors. He wants Hayes to see things for himself and come to a conclusion based on truth, not hearsay. Ariake and Colette arrive at what turns out to be a floating prison. The way elven magic works never fails to impress Ariake. He's genuinely excited to see what's inside. To their surprise, Sela is also locked up. Since she tried to help them, it would look bad if she were released on her own. Still, she doesn't seem too upset. She's actually happy to be spending time with Ariake, even in a place like this. Colette wants to break the prison with force, but Ariake explains that her attacks won't work. The prison reflects magic, so brute strength won't cut it. That said, it's not totally escape-proof. Ariake figures that if he uses his inversion technique to make the barrier absorb magic instead of reflect it, it could overload and explode. Colette is ready to go for it, but Ariake wants to hold off for now. He's certain things will sort themselves out with time. A week passes. Hayes and his men examine the forest, noticing that the trees have started withering due to a presence of malice. Hayes begins to question if imprisoning Ariake was actually the right move. He orders the rotten wood to be cleared out before the malice spreads even further. What confuses him is how this is happening at all. Ariake's supposed to be the source of all this, yet nothing's changed since locking him up. If there really is another source, Hayes may need to start his investigation all over again. In the 10 years since he became chief, nothing like this has ever happened. In fact, the forest had been thriving ever since the old logging projects were shut down. The elves draw strength from nature, and as the forest grew, so did they. But last year, everything started going wrong. The forest began to wither, and fingers quickly pointed at Hayes. People said he wasn't chosen by the forest, that he didn't deserve to be chief. In his defense, he blamed outside forces and became obsessed with finding the source of the decay. Then he heard that the Hero Party had kicked out one of their members. When he met Vivia and learned about Ariake's so-called incompetence, he convinced himself it was all connected. He saw Ariake's exile as the trigger for some kind of revenge plot, one where Ariake would destroy the forest out of spite. It was all a delusion built from desperation. Back in the prison, Sela brings food for Ariake and Colette. Colette is clearly tired of sitting and waiting. Sela tries to comfort her, saying their innocence is slowly being proven. Her brother, despite being older and always treating her like a child, loves the forest more than anything. He's strict with the rules, but he truly believes he's doing the right thing. Sela is deeply worried about the forest and her people. Ariake tells her not to stress too much. By now, Hayes has probably realized the whole idea of Ariake being a disaster was just in his head. With that illusion gone, he can finally see what's really happening. Ariake believes the forest is testing Hayes, seeing if he's truly worthy of being its protector. That test is what Ariake's been waiting for. Sela feels like Ariake is some kind of divine being who's come down to challenge and guide them. Then, a terrible noise shakes the prison. The ground trembles beneath them. Ariake instantly feels uneasy and says this is the worst possible timing for something like this to happen. Hayes declares it an emergency and rushes back to the village. When he returns, he finds out that a landslide has hit them hard. Many homes have been buried or destroyed. Villagers are scrambling to rescue people trapped under collapsed buildings, but there aren't enough hands to help everyone. Hayes is especially worried about Sela. He fears she may have been buried too and immediately orders a search for her. However, other villagers start running to him, pleading for help to save their own relatives. Overwhelmed, Hayes shoulders the blame. He believes the forest spirits must be furious with him. In his distress, he remembers what Ariake told him. Observe the situation carefully and come to a conclusion. Trying to steady his heart, Hayes decides to take responsibility as the village leader, even if the spirits have turned against him. He orders everyone not to give up and to keep rescuing the buried villagers. While saving a child from the debris, he silently promises himself that if he can just protect the village now, a new path will surely reveal itself. Then, without warning, a second landslide hits. This one is massive, and Hayes finds himself directly in its path. He hadn't expected another one to come so quickly. He wants to use his strongest barrier magic, but there are people nearby. If he casts it now, they'll be caught in it, and once unleashed, that spell cannot be stopped. Torn between saving himself and endangering others, Hayes hesitates. It looks like he's ready to give up. That's when Ariake suddenly appears and asks him why he's quitting now. Before Hayes can answer, Ariake unleashes his skills, and, to everyone's shock, the landslide begins to recede. The villagers stare in awe. They call it a miracle. Relief washes over them as they realize they've been saved. Hayes, still catching his breath, looks at Ariake and asks how he was able to use his powers on such a large scale. He wonders what kind of person Ariake really is. At that moment, Sella appears with Colette, both of them safe. Seeing his sister alive, Hayes finally breathes easy. Ariake explains that the landslide was heading straight for him, so he simply acted to protect himself. However, Hayes admits that no matter the reason, Ariake saved the entire village. There's no denying it. He tells Ariake that once the crisis is over, they will properly thank him. To help with clearing the debris, Ariake activates a skill that enhances muscle strength. This makes it much easier for the villagers to lift heavy boulders and rubble. Thanks to his support, everyone trapped in the village is rescued. Ariake, wasting no time, urges the others to keep moving and clear out the village as fast as they can. After the rescue mission, the village holds a big celebration to honor everyone's efforts, especially Ariake's. Sella expresses her gratitude, but as she looks around, she realizes Ariake is already slipping away. She spots him heading toward the corner. He says he's just trying not to stand out too much. That's when Hayes walks up and tells him to come back and sit down. If their savior is stuck standing in the corner, Hayes says he'll be the one held responsible. Ariake doesn't mind the villagers shouting at Hayes. Then Hayes stomps on the ground with force, and the whole gathering quiets down. Everyone turns to look. Hayes struggles to say the words, but he tries to apologize. Ariake can tell how hard it is for an elf to apologize to a human, so he gently tells Hayes not to push himself too much. But Hayes lowers himself and bows, sincerely apologizing. Without even realizing it, he says he blamed Ariake for the village's destruction. Now he knows that was wrong. He endangered the lives of everyone, and as the village leader, he failed. He admits he didn't trust anyone, not even his own sister. If only he hadn't been so stubborn, none of this would have happened. Ariake tells him that's exactly where he made his mistake. The landslide was caused by the buildup of malice, and the root of it all was Hayes's overly protective behavior toward the forest. Sella had already told Ariake about their forest's history. Their numbers had once been small, but under Hayes, the elf population grew. Ariake noticed too many trees. And in a forest like this, every tree must be pruned properly. Hayes had planted too many to care for. The overgrowth blocked the sunlight, which may have led to heavy rainfall and then to the landslide. Ariake asks him how someone like Hayes, who knows the forest better than anyone, allowed that to happen. Hayes explains he was following advice given to him by hero Vivia. When the hero's party passed through, Vivia said their forest was too thin and recommended planting more trees so the elves could draw more power from nature. At first, things seemed better. Disasters stopped, and the elves became stronger, but it didn't last. By the time Hayes realized something was wrong, the forest had already begun to die. He admits that his inexperience led him to believe he could find a new way forward. Ariake takes the blame too. Speaking like a father, he says he should have been there with Vivia. If he had stayed with the hero party, or even just left some advice behind, maybe this could have been prevented. Hayes is taken aback by Ariake's apology. apology. He never expected someone who left the party to take responsibility for it. Hayes always thought that apologies were only for people who had lost their pride, but Ariake shows him that isn't true. Ariake still has his pride, yet he takes accountability without hesitation. It's time for Ariake and Colette to leave. Hayes decides he will send a full report to the kingdom once things settle down. The kingdom needs to know about the hero party's actions, and Vivia deserves to be warned. He also promises to include a detailed account of Ariake's heroism. Sella can't stop crying. She runs up to Ariake and he praises her determination. He tells her that with the strength she showed, she'll make a great leader one day. Meanwhile, the hero party is busy recruiting new members. Alicia is traveling with her familiar Fenrir, searching for Ariake. She can sense traces of Ariake nearby, but along with them, she also feels a presence similar to Fenrir's. Meanwhile, back at the hero party, Vivia is yelling about still not recruiting any useful members. They had interviewed a few people the day before, but none of them were strong enough. To get the Holy Sword back, they have to finish a D-rank quest, and for that, they need a healer to replace Alicia. Vivia tells Elga to make good flyers and make sure they say they're only recruiting females. Bashuta, the porter they recruited, overhears Vivia telling Elga not to bring in any men. He starts to wonder if he really made the right choice joining the team. Delia and Elga try to convince him to stay, saying if one more member quits, it's going to be trouble. Vivia tells him not to worry. If he just does his job and keeps his mouth shut, he'll be way better than the last guy. Then Clara walks in, looking upset, followed by a few guys. The others assume these men are just applicants, but once they see Vivia, they seem surprised. Vivia stretches out his hand proudly, expecting admiration, but instead, they start mocking him. They laugh, saying he's the hero whose sword got taken by the council, and the one who ran away from the cursed cave, leaving his team behind. They start talking about Ariake, saying he's way better than Vivia. The team is confused about why they're even bringing up Ariake. The guys explain that during the battle in the town of Medicine, the Royal Knights were wiped out, and even the adventurers were ready to give up. That's when Ariake showed up and led the adventurers to victory. He even took down the boss ogre. Vivia refuses to believe them, but they insist, saying they were in the fight and got to fight alongside Ariake. Vivia loses his temper and kicks them out of the room. Clara looks around and asks if maybe they should all apologize to Ariake. Things had gone so badly in the cave because Ariake wasn't with them, and she remembers what Alicia said about him. As she starts to bring it up, Vivia grabs her by the neck and tosses her aside, yelling that he's never going to bow down to Ariake. He tells her she can leave if she wants, but she doesn't have plans to go. Deep down, she knows Vivia is going to get what he deserves. There's a knock at the door. Vivia thinks it's those guys again and swings it open, but it turns out to be a girl, Lorelei. She greets everyone and also nods at Bashuta. She introduces herself as an ex-temporary member of the hero party and a cleric. She asks about Ariake and Alicia. The others explain that a lot has happened, and both of them have left. That's why they're trying to recruit new members. Lorelei says she's not just there to say hello. She actually wants to apply for the healer position. The team accepts her right away. With that, all the important roles are filled, and the party gets ready to set out to reclaim Vivia's holy sword. They head to the Edcock Forest. Their goal is to subjugate the wyverns that have settled in the forest lake. This forest is a well-known spawning ground for low-level monsters and a good farming area for adventurers. Suddenly, a manticore appears and charges at them. Vivia draws his regular sword and tries to fight it, thinking it will be easy as an S-rank adventurer, but the manticore dodges and strikes back, stabbing Vivia with its poisonous stinger. The others join the fight, but even together they can't seem to handle the manticore. Then Lorelei jumps in and blasts it with her magic, burning it. She's clearly disappointed. For a team like theirs, taking down a C-rank manticore should have been easy, yet here they are, struggling just to beat one monster. Vivia brushes off her criticism with a weak excuse, saying this is a new team and they're still adjusting to each other. The others agree with him just to keep the mood light. Meanwhile, Clara tries to sneak off, but Delia catches her right away. Clara's afraid they'll use her as bait again, so she wants to get out before that happens. Lorelei and Bashuta are still new, so they don't know about any of this. Lorelei asks Elga what Clara means by bait, but he shrugs it off and tells her not to worry. As they go further into the forest, they run out of insect repellent. Bashuta mentions it and points out that's why the black flies are after them. Vivia snaps at him, asking why he didn't pack enough. Bashuta reminds him that Vivia was the one who said not to bring too much, thinking it would help them conquer the dungeon faster. Even then, Vivia still blames Bashuta for not preparing properly. He brings up Ariaki, saying he never ran out of supplies. Bashuta finds that hard to believe. No porter can carry everything and never run out of items, but he still gives Ariaki credit for being a smart porter. Lorelai says she's never heard of any porter like that. Since running out of supplies is a real possibility, it's up to the leader and the porter to plan ahead. The leader has the final say on what to bring, depending on the difficulty of the quest and the team's strength. Lorelai figures that maybe Ariaki never ran out of things because Vivia used to plan better. So she asks him why the planning failed this time. Vivia just blames it on bad luck. Lorelai believes him for now. She was worried it might have been something more serious. She offers him some extra repellent she brought for herself, and the others are relieved to have it. They reach the area where the wyvern is. Lorelai wants to come up with a plan, but Vivia and the others are already getting fired up. They charge ahead, saying there's no time to waste. Lorelai disagrees. She reminds them that in any adventure, they should be prepared for surprises. In their earlier meeting, they talked about a basic ambush strategy, but now they're ignoring terrain, weather, stamina, and the chance that more monsters might show up. There's one wyvern now, but what if it calls others? Why are they going in blind? She introduces a new rule of adventuring. Reaching the goal needs the right strategy. A quest isn't just about raw power. You need a clear plan that uses everyone's strengths, from offense to defense to support. Vivia asks if she's saying strategy matters more than strength. She tells him that's just common sense. People used to praise them for their smart tactics. She brings up the battle against the behemoth. It started weak, but when it was pushed into a corner, it transformed. Back then, they knew what to expect and used the right spell right away. They had already figured out its next weakness. That fight was all about perfect planning, sharp observation, and good analysis. That's when the hero party got its reputation as the master tacticians. Bashuta says he remembers hearing about that battle, and it's why he wanted to join the hero party in the first place. Vivia, on the other hand, looks confused. He doesn't remember anything about a strategy. Back then, they just fought, and Ariaki took care of all the support. Vivia thinks back to that time when they were pushing hard against the behemoth. Alicia had been standing next to Ariaki, and the others were fighting up front. She praised Ariaki for predicting the monster's moves. Again and again, he'd guess where the monster would charge next. Even now, Vivia refuses to give Ariaki any credit. He tells himself he was the one who fought and won that battle. But Lorelai corrects him. As far as she remembers, Ariaki handled all the prep by himself, from strategy to coordination. He guided everyone the whole time. She then asks the team a tough question. Now that Ariaki's gone, is that the reason they've turned into such a pathetic excuse for a party? They don't like being called pathetic. Vivia can't take such humiliation and suddenly shouts out, crying with tears streaming down his face. He starts losing it, and the others quickly ask Lorelai to stop talking. They try to cheer him up, but then Plara bursts out laughing at Vivia. Vivia ends up crying after what Lorelai said, and now he needs everyone to console him. He's acting like a useless hero, and lying there sobbing actually suits him. He deserves it after abandoning her in the cave. Elga and Delia yell at Plara for bringing that up again. The situation turns chaotic, and Bashuta gets fed up with staying around adventurers like them. He's had enough and decides to leave them on the spot. As he walks off, Elga and Delia chase after him, trying to stop him from exposing the secrets of the hero party. Meanwhile, Lorelai walks over to Vivia and asks him to focus and take down the monster, but he's too mentally broken and begs her to apologize to him. Lorelai gives up, unable to believe how selfish this group really is. She doesn't think they deserve to be called a hero's party at all. While things fall apart, Vivia completely loses control. In his frustration, he's about to draw his final sword, aiming to strike back at everyone who laughed at him. The final sword is one of his ultimate techniques, using up half his magic value to slash through a wide area. It's powerful enough to blow away everything around him, including the wyverns and his own party. Lorelai panics and tries to stop him, warning that this forest is one of the kingdom's precious lands. Just then, a wyvern appears, flying overhead. But instead of helping Vivia stop himself, Delia and the others run away from the scene. Lorelai just stands there, wondering how this could possibly be the so-called hero's party. The hero party is thrown into jail and called criminals. Vivia still refuses to admit that what he did was wrong. He can't understand why they're being locked up instead of being thanked for getting rid of the wyvern. The knight guarding the jail tells him that Vivia's attack only took out one wyvern, and in exchange, it destroyed a large section of the forest, which is a vital resource. It was a miracle no one died, because if someone had, Vivia would be facing serious charges. The knight also brings up the rumor about Vivia abandoning his allies. He tells Vivia to take this time to reflect while he waits for judgment. Lorelei tries to speak up for herself. She says she stopped Vivia before he could cause even more damage, and she had nothing to do with destroying the forest. If it hadn't been for her intervention, things would have gotten way worse. The others jump in too, saying they got hurt trying to stop Vivia. After hearing this, the knight blames Vivia for the entire disaster and decides to let the others go free while keeping Vivia behind bars. That causes a commotion, and a man named Wardok shows up to check on the situation. The hero party recognizes him. He was nearby on business. He quickly tells the knight to release the entire party, calling their arrest a mistake. The knight disagrees and says the party is still under investigation. At least, Vivia should be held. But Wardok shuts him down with a sharp glare and repeats his command to release them. Then Wardok invites the hero party to the royal capital, saying he has something important to discuss with Vivia. Meanwhile, Ariake and Colette arrive at a place called Oldentown. As they walk through, a woman accidentally splashes water on Ariake. He takes it as a bad omen and starts to worry about Vivia and the others. Suddenly, a crowd rushes by, pushing them toward a man named Heinrich. They both get swept up in the sea of people, and Ariake ends up standing right in front of Heinrich, who's sitting tall on a horse. Heinrich is there to give a speech about his plans to make the town better. Ariake decides to stick around and listen, curious about what kind of ideas this man has to keep the town beautiful. Heinrich stands on stage, delivering his speech with passion. He's proud of his loyal subjects who work hard for him. In his view, the peace of the town is being threatened by poor people who evade taxes, and among them, he blames the beast folk the most. Because of their strength and animal instincts, he says they easily turn to crime. That's why he's there, to protect the city from the threat they pose. He declares his plan to clean up the slums and promises to crack down on all beast folk in the city. The crowd cheers in agreement. Then a district chief from Segsta steps forward and asks for help dealing with thieves in his area. Heinrich uses this moment to impress the crowd, saying the chief just wants peace for his people. He asks how many low-class beast folk live in that village and says it's obvious who the thieves are. According to him, those beast folk are causing problems, and the chief should get rid of them himself. However, the chief hesitates. His village is an industrial zone and depends on the strength of the beast folk for various projects. Even so, Heinrich brushes this off and calls it the labor of criminals. He insists that by removing the beast folk, they can build a city that doesn't rely on criminal labor. In the end, the chief reluctantly agrees to Heinrich's plan. Ariake watches all of this unfold and can't shake the bad feeling creeping over him. Next, the guild master of the city shows up to report that some dangerous adventurers have been causing trouble. According to him, these troublemakers have already beaten up 10 adventurers this month. Someone in the crowd warns Ariake and Colette that these adventurers are extremely dangerous, though no one seems to know exactly who they are. Heinrich addresses the crowd and talks about the last time bad adventurers appeared at the Temple of Purgatory. He says he tried to deal with them but failed, although this time he vows to capture them. Even if they're hiding among other adventurers, he swears to track them down and execute them. Then his eyes land on Ariake. A knight whispers to him that Ariake was kicked out of the hero party. Heinrich is surprised since it's rare for a former party member to visit. He offers Ariake and Colette the honor of a private tour. Ariake feels it would be rude to refuse, so they agree to go. Colette, however, doesn't like the way Heinrich's men keep following them. As they walk, Ariake notices the sword Heinrich carries. He's impressed that someone of such high status is armed with such a blade. Curious, he reaches out to examine it, but Heinrich snaps at him, saying a commoner can't be allowed to touch it. Ariaki then asks about the beast folk he hasn't seen around the city. He wonders if Heinrich truly believes they are the only ones committing crimes. Heinrich replies without hesitation. To him, it's obvious. Beast folk are poor and think only of crime, which is why they must be driven out. Then Heinrich turns his attention to Colette. He compliments her beauty and says she's as lovely as a princess. He claims her potential is being wasted and suggests she should leave Ariaki and stand beside him instead. That's all Colette needs to hear. His words push her over the edge. She tells him to keep his jokes to himself. For her, Ariaki is in a league of his own, far above anyone as arrogant as Heinrich. Heinrich doesn't understand what she sees in Ariaki, but Colette replies that not knowing Ariaki at all is exactly what makes Heinrich a third-rate man. Colette fires back at Heinrich's arrogance, and he's just about to respond when a poor man stumbles into the scene. Heinrich recoils, calling him filthy. His guards immediately beat the man for not noticing a noble was present. Colette steps in, telling him he's going too far, but Heinrich sees no problem with it. To him, that kind of punishment is exactly what lowly humans deserve. The beaten man manages to run away, and Ariaki quietly casts a speed-enhancing skill on him to help him escape. Heinrich doesn't seem to notice. He turns back to Ariake and Colette and tells them to come witness the execution of some beast folk. According to him, 2 kids defied his orders and now must be punished as an example. Otherwise, more of them will follow. Heinrich's men get ready to execute the children by hurling stones at them. Just as the stones are about to hit, Ariake uses his skill to block the attack and protect the kids. That one action sends Heinrich into a rage. He screams at Ariaki for daring to disobey him in order to save what he calls filthy insurgents. Ariaki should have known his place. Now Ariaki is visibly angry. He walks right up to Heinrich and, with a steady voice, tells him there's only one beast here and he's standing right in front of him. Heinrich has had enough. He orders his men to arrest Ariaki on the spot and declares that he'll be executed as punishment. But first, he insists on finishing the children off. Ariaki suddenly finds himself unable to move. Some kind of restraining magic is holding him down. Heinrich wants him to watch helplessly as the children are dealt with. Colette is about to step in, but Ariaki tells her not to move. He calmly says the kids no longer need their help. Then, a magical barrier forms between the children and the knights. Ariaki recognizes the power instantly. There's only one girl he knows with magic like that. Alicia steps forward and demands an explanation from Heinrich, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade.
When Alicia enters the execution hall and demands to know what's going on. Seeing her standing there, Heinrich is struck with shock and can't believe she's here. She glances at Ariake, who is being held by 2 guards, and firmly orders them to release him, saying there's no need to keep him restrained. Heinrich is sweating as he greets her, saying it's an honor to finally meet her. He awkwardly adds that the execution grounds hardly seem fitting for someone as elegant as her. Before he can say more, Alicia raises her staff and cuts him off. She tells him the clergy informed her he has been ostracizing the beast folks, and according to the doctrine of Brigitism, racial discrimination goes against their faith and is strictly forbidden. He quickly realizes the church has sent her, but insists this isn't the time or place for a trial. The crowd watching the execution starts murmuring, gossiping about Alicia and wondering if Heinrich is acting strange. To silence them, he shouts that it's not discrimination. He's simply punishing criminals. He declares that the church has no right to tell him how to handle these beast folks. Alicia narrows her eyes at him and asks if that's his official stance to the church. She informs him that she has already investigated. He has raised their taxes, seized their property, and punished those who oppose him with extreme measures, including this public execution. She asks him what he would call it if not racial discrimination. She sees the situation as extremely serious and states that, as a saintess, it is her duty to formally recommend his excommunication. The declaration shocks both Heinrich and the crowd. Colette watches the growing unrest among the people. Since Brigitism is the state religion and its doctrine is law, most of the country's citizens are believers who trust the church above all. If Heinrich is excommunicated, he will lose all his power. Unable to do anything else, Heinrich quickly backtracks and orders the release of the beast folk. The siblings embrace tightly once freed. Alicia breathes a sigh of relief, glad she made it in time. She gently heals them, reassuring them that everything will be all right and they'll feel better soon. As Heinrich tries to sneak away, Alicia calls out to him and asks where he thinks he's going. She tells him he still hasn't apologized to the 2 children. If he refuses to repent, she warns she'll have no choice but to proceed with excommunication. Trembling with fear, Heinrich makes a twisted face and reluctantly apologizes to the children. Then she tells him to apologize to Ariek as well, which surprises him even more. She explains that if the children had been executed, he would have been excommunicated without question. Ariek saved them and spared him that fate. Alicia presses further, saying if anything, Heinrich should be grateful to Ariek. The way he treated him is completely inexcusable. Heinrich tries to respond but falters under her piercing gaze. He then walks over and apologizes to Ariek. Ariek doesn't have much to say in return, but tells him that if he truly feels remorse, he should never do anything like this again. The crowd begins to buzz, gossiping that Heinrich not only apologized to the beast folk, but also bowed his head to Ariek. Unable to bear the humiliation, Heinrich quietly leaves the execution grounds. Colette feels a sense of satisfaction seeing the look on Heinrich's face. Alicia's expression softens as she turns to Ariek and greets him, saying it's been a long time. Ariek greets her back, saying he's glad she's safe. Just hearing his voice makes Alicia frustrated, struggling to hold back the emotions that rise within her. It's been weeks since she last saw him and she's glad she followed after him. To her, he looks even more divine than before. But then her gaze shifts to Colette, who is peeking out from behind Ariek. Her expression turns helpless as she asks who the cute girl is that he has with him now. Colette steps forward and introduces herself to Alicia. Alicia is totally stunned by how beautiful Colette is. She can't believe at the moment she took her eyes off him, he ended up forming a party with such a cute girl. How could she have underestimated his charm like this? Alicia thinks of herself as the complete opposite of Colette, who's cute, carefree, and delicate. She doesn't even know how to react. Just the idea of being a third wheel makes her hesitate to look straight at Colette. At the same time, Colette is also taken aback by Alicia's enchanting beauty. Alicia is so stunning that even a dragon folk like Colette feels mesmerized. Not just her looks, but she also carries a powerful aura. Ariek had mentioned he had a companion, but Colette never expected someone like Alicia. Ariek asks Alicia about the rest of the party, and she tells him she left them. He figures it must be a coincidence the church sent her here, but she shyly confesses she's been following him ever since she left and was hoping to join him. Ariek doesn't mind and turns to Colette, asking if she's okay with it. Now Colette starts overthinking whether this is some kind of test. Traveling with a romantic rival would be horrible, but if she comes off as small-minded, Ariek might dump her. Alicia, on the other hand, is now stressed over why Ariek is asking Colette's opinion about her joining. Could it be that they're already dating? Just as Colette is about to say something, Alicia rushes in to make her first move. She introduces her skill set and mentions that people call her the Great Sanctus. She's skilled in high-level healing and even revival magic. She suddenly grabs Colette's hands and with a desperate expression says she'll be a divine asset to the party. Colette listens to all of this and reacts honestly, her eyes sparkling. She finds Alicia amazing, especially since such rare skills are uncommon for humans. Then Alicia, enchanted by Colette's purity, realizes this is the power of pretty girls. Embarrassed by her desperate first move, she admits to herself that she's lost round one. Meanwhile, Colette is caught up in her own thoughts, thinking Alicia is like something out of a fairy tale. If she joins, her own value might vanish. She gets nervous not wanting Ariek to abandon her, and wants to prove her own worth in something Alicia doesn't have. So she tells Alicia that she's the youngest daughter of the Dragon King. She might not be a healer, but she's a skilled fighter and can breathe fire. Alicia appreciates that and says having someone like Colette in the party is definitely reassuring. Colette gets excited and says she's looking forward to adventuring with Alicia as equals. Both girls feel a bit of relief knowing they'll get to stay by Ariek's side in the party. Ariek watches them silently. He already knew both girls were stubborn, but now he sees they're getting along just fine, so he doesn't need to worry anymore. Then the Beast Folk siblings arrive, thanking Ariek and Alicia for saving their lives. They say they wish they could do more to repay their saviors. The boy introduces himself as Hao, and his younger sister is Anne from the Dog-Eared tribe. Ariek humbly says he didn't do much, but they see him as their hero. Back when they had no hope, he stepped in and stood against Heinrich, even at great risk. So Ariek accepts half the thanks and puts the other half on Alicia. He then asks what they plan to do next. Hao says they want to stay here and become adventurers. Even though Heinrich is still a threat, there are some kind people secretly helping them. Alicia explains that Heinrich inherited his title after his father's death, which is why the church took so long to intervene in his cruel behavior toward beast folk. But they don't need to worry anymore. She promises that Heinrich will be punished for his actions and the church will be keeping an eye on him now. The siblings are relieved to hear that. Even though they're so scared of the so-called adventurer killer, they finally feel like they can live in peace. Things seem to have calmed down for now, but Ariek still can't shake the look Heinrich gave him before leaving. He turns to the siblings, saying there's something he needs to talk to them about. When Heinrich is in his room, slamming his head against the table so hard that his forehead starts to bleed, he curses Ariek, furious that someone like him dared to look down on a noble. Just for blocking a few stones from hitting some kids, now everyone's acting like he's some kind of hero. Heinrich rants about how the beast folk are a curse on the world and should be erased, their very existence being a sin. He can't believe even Alicia sided with Ariek and sentenced him to excommunication. In his rage, he swears they'll all regret it and pay with their lives. The room is a complete mess, and he's completely lost it. Even in his crazed state, Heinrich clutches at one last thread of pride. He mutters that although he has lost his standing, he still has his sword, the one he received from someone important. Then a guard knocks and steps into the room. Heinrich quickly wipes the blood from his forehead and tells the guard they're going to take care of the adventurer killer. Before that, though, he needs to check if anyone suspicious has entered the Temple of Purgatory. He instructs the guard to bring him the names. The guard hands him a list prepared by the guild as usual. Heinrich skims through it and suddenly breaks into a horrible, creepy smile. He spots the names of the beast folk's siblings and grins, thinking luck is finally on his side. He tells the guard to gather the knights. They will head to the temple in the morning. By the next day, Heinrich and the knights reach their destination. From the top of the hill, Heinrich watches the scene below. One knight informs him that no suspicious adventurers have been spotted entering the temple. Then Heinrich catches sight of the beast folk's siblings mingling with the other adventurers. His face twists into another creepy grin, and he immediately orders the knights to go inside the temple. Inside, two beast folk men are exploring the temple corridors. One of them brings up the adventurer killer, asking if it's really safe to be there. The other one brushes it off, saying they'll be fine, and besides, the loot is worth a lot now. He tells his friend to stop worrying about some silly urban legend. But that's when it happens. The next victim of the so-called urban legend arrives. A hooded figure stabs one of the men in the back without warning. The second man is frozen in shock, trembling, and tries to fight back. In the struggle, the killer's hood comes off, revealing a face they both know. It's their beloved lord, Heinrich. The man tries to run, but Heinrich cuts him down from behind. Since he saw Heinrich's face, he had no chance of surviving. Heinrich, grinning insanely, fully admits to being the killer. He mutters to himself about how even trash like beast folk can help sharpen his blade. The more blood it tastes, the more beautiful its cuts become. Then he whispers that now it's time for the main course, the siblings. Meanwhile, the beast folk's siblings are also inside the temple. The place feels creepier than usual, so they decide to take a short rest. Hao offers to scout the area a bit ahead and leaves his sister behind. Watching from the shadows, Heinrich grins wickedly. This is the perfect opportunity. With the brother gone, he can take out the sister first. Heinrich plans to torment the brother by making him watch his sister's lifeless body. He rushes forward, aiming to strike the girl from behind, but Hao appears out of nowhere and punches him hard in the face, telling him not to touch his sister. Heinrich crashes to the ground, shocked, and demands to know how he snuck up on him. Then Colette steps forward, removing her wig, and reveals that she had been the one posing as Hao. Ariek and Alicia arrive behind her, and Ariek admits that the plan worked out better than he expected, even though he had been worried. Ariek explains that he had already figured out who the adventurer killer was. During Heinrich's speech the other day, he mentioned that the killer was hiding among the adventurers. That detail tipped him off. It could have been anyone, so calling out adventurers specifically seemed suspicious. For someone like Heinrich to be doing such dirty work himself also felt off, suggesting he had a hidden agenda. Spending an entire year on a fruitless search without damaging his reputation made sense only if the search itself was a cover to continue the murders in secret. Heinrich yells that none of those connections prove anything. Then Alicia steps forward and uses her magic to revive the beast folk victims Heinrich had killed. One of them points directly at Heinrich, confirming that he is the one who ended their lives. Colette moves over to a sword lying nearby. It radiates an evil aura that grows stronger the more it is used to kill. The sheath had been concealing that aura, hiding its true nature. To take down a noble like Heinrich, Ariek had to be careful. He came up with a plan that involved using the siblings as decoys. Alicia, now cold and expressionless, condemns Heinrich. She lists his crimes, murder, civil rights abuse, and blackmail. She says he is a disgrace to society, and once the truth comes out, he will lose everything. Heinrich, beaten and with a swollen face, is handed over to the beast folk men who are ready to take him back. But then he begins muttering to himself, and Ariek senses something is wrong. Heinrich suddenly shouts the same line Aaron Jaeger once did. He says he will kill every last one of them. Ariek yells for everyone to get down, but it's too late. The sword starts shaking, then rises with a violent swirl of wind that throws Colette and the others backward. The weapon returns to Heinrich, pulsing with a dark, evil power. Now standing tall, gripping his blade, Heinrich declares that he will show them the true power of the demonic sword. One Heinrich holds up his sword and rants that they dared insult him, so now they'll be destroyed by his blade. He pulls the sword back, ready to strike. Ariek senses something strange and warns him that this isn't just a sword, it's a monster. But again, he's too late. The sword transforms into a massive, grotesque creature. From behind Heinrich, tentacles shoot out, piercing through his head from back to front. Then the monster completely devours him. Colette, shocked, asks what this thing is. Ariake explains that it's a monster called a mimic. It disguises itself as an item and feeds on adventurers to grow stronger. The creature extends its tentacles and begins hurling rocks at Ariake and the others. They scramble to dodge the attacks, diving behind large boulders for cover. Ariake and Alicia manage to shield everyone, but if the mimic gets any faster, it won't be able to hold it back. Hao stays close to Ariake and mentions that he's heard of mimics living in treasure chests. Ariake tells him they're not limited to that. This one has evolved into its final form, a hell mimic, after devouring so many souls. These are triple S-class monsters, considered a disaster-level threat. Then the monster lets out a new attack. A shockwave bursts out, knocking everyone unconscious except Alicia and a few other powerful fighters. Alicia observes its movements and notices that they're sluggish, which means it hasn't fully absorbed Heinrich yet. Ariake tells everyone except Alicia and Colette to evacuate immediately since they're lucky enough to be on the ground floor. He will cover them and then team up with his party to finish the monster off. Hao feels frustrated, saying in a self-deprecating way that all he can do is help evacuate. He figures he'd be useless against a creature like that. Ariake places a hand on his shoulder and encourages him, telling him that knowing what to do in a critical moment is the mark of a true adventurer. He's better than he thinks. Then Hao leads the others out quickly while Ariake, Alicia, and Colette stay hidden. But their cover won't hold much longer. The monster has fully consumed Heinrich now and begins creeping closer. They can hear its voice repeating the same words Heinrich once shouted about killing Ariake and everyone else. Ariake and the others are ready to form a tight formation. He casts enhancement spells on Colette, reminding her that these buffs are short-lived but powerful. Then he turns to Alicia, telling her to get her barriers ready before the spells wear off in 45 seconds. Alicia responds that she plans to activate them with 1 second to spare at 44 seconds. Colette, fired up and overconfident, rushes in for a strike. At first, the monster's movements seem predictable. She lands a blow but almost instantly has to back off as the creature retaliates. Where she hit it, a new massive mouth grows. They quickly realize the monster becomes stronger when it takes damage. Ariake tells Colette to keep baiting it like that, hit, dodge, and repeat. She follows the plan, dodging its counterattacks as it gradually shifts its attention toward Ariake. Then it lashes out at him, but Alicia activates her barrier just in time to block the hit. Alicia yells at him for not using his own skills on himself. Ariake admits he figured the monster would target him eventually, so he tried to conserve his magic. Alicia demands to know what he would have done if she hadn't protected him. Ariake calmly says that with her around, he had no doubt he'd be safe. After all, she supported the hero party countless times. As long as she's there, he knows they'll make it through. Alicia starts blushing, frustrated, and flustered. She's sweating and mutters that he's still being smooth even in a serious fight. She wonders who he thinks she's been working so hard for. She says she can't focus when he keeps looking at her. Meanwhile, Ariake stands there, completely missing the point and awkwardly apologizes, thinking he's upset her. Then Colette returns inside the barrier, ready for the next move. With her back, Ariake says it's time to explain the monster's weakness while the barrier holds. Both Alicia and Colette are shocked to hear he already figured it out. Ariake explains that it's not what it seems. The creature doesn't get stronger when it's hit, it just pretends to. The area where Colette struck was actually slower to react afterward. It wasn't a power-up, it was a trick. Mimics often fight using deception. Alicia argues that even so, its regeneration is incredible. When it's damaged, it grows a new mouth and fully recovers in 10 seconds. Ariake agrees but points out something strange. If it heals so quickly, why does it bother using its mouth to cover up the damage? Colette suggests maybe it wants to appear stronger. But Alicia thinks it through and catches on. She says maybe if they hit the same spot twice, it won't have time to heal in between. Ariake grins and says it's worth a try. After all, they've got nothing to lose with this plan. And they come up with a plan. To beat the mimic before it recovers, they have only one option, multi-strike. Their damage output won't increase, but hitting the same spot over and over should wear the monster down faster than it can heal. The barrier is about to break and the plan isn't exactly foolproof. Still, they're out of time. If they wait any longer, the mimic could destroy the entire dungeon. The monster finally breaks through the barrier and swings its tentacles at them. Everyone scrambles to dodge. Ariake quickly activates his skills, lightning speed, and nimbleness on Alicia and Colette. Colette rushes in first and lands a clean strike. Then Alicia follows up, hitting the exact same spot. The monster stumbles right after the double blow. It seems that repeated strikes are messing with its ability to recover. Ariake moves in for a hit too, but ends up getting caught by the mimic's body. Alicia and Colette pound it relentlessly until it spits him out. Even though they manage to save him, sticky pieces of the monster's tentacles stick to their bodies. The creature is struggling to hold his form now. After taking more damage, the mimic starts fleeing toward the dungeon exit. Alicia prepares to block the way with her barrier, but Ariake stops her and tells her to let it go. They all followed outside. The monster crawls up a pole. Ariake calls out and asks if it plans to eat people out there to recover. But the adventurers have already cleared out thanks to the warning spread by the beast folk Heinrich had once tormented. Alicia worries the monster might escape, but Ariek had expected it to make a break for it. Colette steps forward, fully ready to go all out. She transforms into a massive dragon right before their eyes. Alicia can't help staring, completely mesmerized by the dragon's beauty. Colette flies into the sky and unleashes a dazzling breath of fire on the monster, blasting a hole straight into the ground. Then she shifts back into her human form and returns to Ariek. He asks her if she even knows how to hold back, but she just grins and says it felt too good not to. Alicia watches her with wide eyes and asks if that was her true form. Colette nods and playfully asks if she's impressed. Alicia tells her she was deeply moved by how divine she looked, then mutters that she probably needs to start working out now too. She's relieved that they defeated the mimic as a party, but she's clearly drained after using that much magic. She credits Ariek for their victory, but he turns it down, saying his skills only shine because of his allies. Without those two, they never would have made it. Alicia says that the tension between beast folk and townspeople might still linger, but at least the adventurer killer has been taken care of. Ariek stays quiet, still thinking about the demonic sword. He suspects Heinrich didn't act alone and that someone might have been guiding him in secret. Colette, on the other hand, doesn't want to worry about that right now. She tells him to enjoy the moment. After returning to Olden Town, the townspeople welcome them like heroes. Ariek is surrounded by grateful citizens who bring him gifts. Though thankful, he quietly wishes for a peaceful life. Just as he's about to sneak away from the crowd, Hao and Anne show up, thanking him for saving the beast folk. Ariek hops down from the wall and tells them not to thank him. It was their own efforts that made a difference. They hand him a gift, the Bell of Dawn. If he ever rings it in a time of trouble, the whole tribe will come to his aid. They call him master and say it's the collective will of their people to serve him. Ariek gently pats their heads and tells them to stay safe. Alicia then finds him and says she's been looking for him. When he says they'll be leaving soon, she explains, somewhat upset, that she needs to leave the party for a bit. The church officials have requested her presence. She half blames him, saying that since he took down Heinrich, the church now wants to thank her personally and hear her report. Ariek can't tell if she's mad or not. She admits she's grateful for what he did. The archbishop even referred to him as Lord Mihama Ariek, calling him a hero. They want him to come with her to show their appreciation, but he declines without hesitation. Alicia chuckles and says she expected that. He's never liked being in the spotlight. For the first time, Ariek is genuinely touched by her radiant smile. He quietly says it's been a while since he's seen her this happy. She doesn't catch what he said, and as she walks off, she turns back to tell him she already explained everything to Colette. He calls out her name and tells her to stay safe. She doesn't respond, but as she walks away, tears slide down her cheeks. Just then, a graceful woman with long hair approaches him and whispers that they finally met. She introduces herself as Fenrir, Alicia's attendant. She understands why Alicia didn't mention her earlier and warns Ariek to be cautious. The true mastermind behind everything is still out there. Before Ariek can ask her anything, she leans in and kisses him on the cheek, saying they'll meet again. Then she vanishes. Ariek stands there, stunned that she caught him off guard. He realizes he still has a lot to learn. Later, Ariek and Colette sit inside a carriage. Colette jokes that they had to escape town like thieves and asks where they're heading next. Ariek tells her they're bound for the marine city of Belta, and from there, they'll need to cross the sea to reach Alti. He sinks into thought. Ever since Fenrir spoke to him, his suspicions have grown stronger. Someone had been manipulating Heinrich from the shadows, and even now, he hasn't been able to uncover who. All he has is a lingering sense of something sinister. He thinks back to everything, the withering of the elven forests, the Devil's Grove in Medicine Town, even the moment when he saved Colette. In each case, the scale of the disaster didn't match the supposed cause. It never sat right with him. Now more than ever, he feels it. Someone is trying to spread darkness, and he doesn't like where this is heading. While traveling down the road, Ariek and his group spot royal knights standing ahead. They halt as the knights step forward to deliver a royal decree from the kingdom of Granheim. According to it, the great sage Ariek is ordered to face the hero Haruno of Vivia in a duel to be held in Belta 1 month from now. Colette raises an eyebrow and questions why they want Ariek involved. He tells her kingdoms usually stage these kinds of duels to show off their hero's strength, though he suspects there's more to it than just that. Colette urges him to ignore the summons and not let the knights boss him around. She even glares at the knights, boldly questioning what real power kings even have. But Ariek, acting calm and almost like a father figure, says he's fine with it. This way he can see how much the hero's party has grown since he left. Sure, they've made plenty of mistakes, but that's all part of the growth process. That's what he calls parental love. He then tells the knights to inform the king that he accepts the duel. Elsewhere, Vivia is informed of the imperial duel by the Chancellor of Granheim. The Chancellor expects resistance, but instead, Vivia laughs in agitation. He had worried this special treatment would just saddle him with some annoying tasks, so this actually feels like a relief. Brimming with arrogance, he calls Ariek a shrimp and says he's not even worth the effort. The rest of the party is there too. Delia lounges while getting a foot massage and says Vivia shouldn't waste time on an idiot like Ariek. She claims she could knock him out in one hit. Aga, who's nearby doing push-ups, agrees and mocks Ariake's lack of muscle. Pirara, munching on snacks, adds that she'd love to teach Ariake a lesson. Lorelei, however, is the only one who seems concerned. She says she heard Ariake gathered all the adventurers in medicine and saved them from the Devil's Grove. If they're going to go up against him, they better be prepared. Vivia scoffs at her for believing rumors and insists the knights were the ones who handled the Devil's Grove. He turns to the Chancellor to back him up. The Chancellor replies that publicly, the kingdom stated the knights were responsible. Vivia's eyes twitch at the word publicly, but the Chancellor says nothing more, citing his position. Pirara laughs off the entire situation, claiming Ariake only ever supported others, and that any victories were likely thanks to stronger adventurers. Lorelei presses again, saying that if the rumors are true, Ariake played a much bigger role. Vivia suddenly snaps and yells at her to stop arguing with him, claiming rumors always blow things out of proportion. The room falls silent. Lorelei finally speaks up and says she's leaving the party. Basta, standing quietly beside her, agrees to go with her. Delia calls it pointless, reminding them of the Edcock Forest incident. They received numerous complaints and damage claims, but because they're members of the Heroes Party, the kingdom protected them. Without that title, they'd be in debt and despised. Lorelei breaks into tears, saying it's not fair. Bahuda calls it a nightmare. The Chancellor finally admits, if he may speak freely, that this duel is designed to repair the heroes' damaged image. Their current reputation doesn't match their title, especially when people now see Ariake as the true hero. This duel is a way to clear things up and correct that perception. Vivia listens silently until finally he shatters a wine glass in anger. He repeats that Ariake is weak and this whole thing is beneath him. But since he is the hero, he'll enact justice. He paints the duel as retribution against Ariake for daring to look down on him and names it a battle of justice. Then he accepts the duel. The Chancellor, pleased, says he was expecting that and calls someone else in, Lacri. Lacri enters and introduces himself. The Chancellor says he will be joining the Heroes Party as a disciple and Vivia should take him under his care. Vivia looks furious, pointing at Lacri and asking if the Chancellor really wants him to babysit a kid. He argues that Lacri is not even a girl and he doesn't want to deal with this. The Chancellor calmly explains that Lacri wields the Holy Lance Brionac, and since Vivia once wielded a holy weapon himself, no one is more suited to guide him. Lacri's special training under Hero Vivia begins. Though inexperienced with swordsmanship, Lacri is grateful and gives his all. The group is traveling toward the marine city of Belta for Ariake's imperial duel. While Vivia trains Lacri, the rest of the hero party relaxes with card games. Lorelei, irritated, asks if this is really the time to play around. They just see it as a break from training. Basta quietly tells her it's no use trying to change her attitude and adds that Lacri seems reasonable. Lorelei agrees and starts to feel worried about Lacri. During a session, Lacri's lance flies out of his hands, and as he runs to retrieve it, Vivia boils with anger. He recalls the Chancellor's words that Lacri might surpass him if trained by a true hero. Vivia grits his teeth, thinking Lacri is just a lucky brat who thinks he has power just because he was chosen. When Lacri returns with his lance, Vivia suddenly kicks him in the stomach, claiming he left himself wide open. Lorelei defends Lacri, saying attacking someone who isn't ready isn't cool. Vivia waves it off, saying it was a lesson. Lacri gets back up and thanks Vivia for the guidance, which only annoys him more. Vivia launches another attack, but Lacri manages to dodge. Though he stumbles, Lorelei notes how impressive it was that Lacri redirected the impact using his waist armor. Furious, Vivia decides to show him what real strength looks like. With a flourish of sword moves, he slams Lacri with a heavy strike, sending him flying. The others call out that he's gone too far, but Vivia claims he held back. Laughing, he bets Lacri doesn't even know what just happened. Lorelei helps Lacri sit up. Though in pain, Lacri carefully describes the entire sequence of Vivia's move, how he used a downward swing to launch his sword upward, then follow the momentum to strike down again. He says he learned a lot from the gravity-defying technique. Vivia starts sweating. Lacri noticed details of his technique he didn't even realize himself. If Lacri's reflexes had been sharper, he might have avoided the attack. Meanwhile, Delia, Pirara, and Iba grow jealous. They realize Lacri's potential and begin to see him as a threat. To put Lacri in his place, Vivia decides to test his strength. He tells the others to show Lacri how it's done. In a blur of attacks, they beat him up. Vivia approaches and tells Lacri that if he can't handle this level of training, he won't be able to keep up with them. He adds that he has the perfect job for him. Later, Vivia and the others enjoy their lunch while making Lacri serve them. They order him around, forcing him to fetch tea. Lorelei points out it's basically bullying. Vivia dismisses it, saying it's natural for a disciple to serve. He mocks Lacri, calling him a loser who at least has something he's good at. Lacri, holding back his shame, tells Lorelei not to worry. He knows he's weak and was only recently chosen by the Holy Lance. He'll do whatever it takes to stay in the party. Vivia agrees, saying if he lacks talent, he needs to work harder. As Lacri walks forward with a tray, the wine glass he carries tips over, spilling its contents on Vivia. Furious, Vivia grabs Lacri by the collar, slams him to the ground, and yells at him. He says Lacri can't fight, can't even run errands, and commands him to leave the party. Lacri trembles, haunted by memories of someone else yelling at him about carrying the weight of his family name. Overwhelmed, he runs away. Vivia scoffs, saying someone who runs at this stage isn't worthy to be his disciple. Lacri flees to the forest, crying. He blames himself, thinking he's talentless and a disappointment. He gave up his friends, his old life, and even himself to walk this path. He cries out to the Holy Lance, questioning why it chose him. That's when a group of bandits spots him. They notice his expensive-looking lance and tell him to hand it over. He backs away and falls down a hill. The bandits call for backup. At the bottom of the hill, Lacri lands safely and quickly heals with a potion Basta gave him. He estimates that 5 to 10 enemies are incoming. Clutching the lance to his chest, he decides he has to escape. If he stays, he'll be captured. He plans to find a village while the potion still helps him recover. Being hunted in unfamiliar territory may seem hopeless, but he refuses to go down without a fight. 2 bandits return with reinforcements and begin searching for Lacri. She is injured, so they assume she couldn't have gone far. Until now, Lacri never gave herself much thought, but the pain and exhaustion are starting to get to her. Her head spins as she hides behind a tree, watching more bandits gather. She still has a small amount of potion left and is about to drink it when a bandit comes from another direction and swings an axe at her. Fortunately, Lacri's reflexes kick in, and she dodges. Soon, around 30 bandits surround her. One of them calls her a lad, which offends her. She laughs at herself for worrying about such a trivial thing in a dire situation. The wielder of the Holy Lance was chosen from the Kelberg family, and it was her, not her brothers. Her father believed only a man should wield such a weapon, so from the moment she was chosen, she was treated as one. Her hair was cut short, her dresses were replaced with armor, and even so, she bore the burden proudly as the youngest daughter. That pride still burns fiercely, and she refuses to hand Bryonic over to scum like these. One of the bandits hits her, and she fights back, yelling that if they want the lance, they'll have to rip it from her cold, dead hands. If she can't block their attacks, she'll deflect them. If not, she'll make sure the cuts aren't deep. As long as she avoids a fatal hit, that's all that matters. She charges toward the bandit chief, planning to use him as a shield. But midway through, her limbs go numb and she collapses. The bandits have poisoned their weapons, and it's now affecting her. The chief takes her lance and mocks her, saying he hopes she regrets losing it before they end her pathetic life. Just then, Ariake arrives. He mocks them for ganging up on a child and sends several bandits flying with a single swing. Lacri is shocked by how easily he took them down. The bandits wonder if he's with her, but the chief doesn't care. He claims they've got the lance and should just leave. But when he looks at his hands, the lance is gone. Ariake holds it now, saying it belongs to Lacri, and he's taking it back. He reaches out to help her up and introduces himself. But since this feels like a harem story, what comes next is predictable. Lacri, overwhelmed, blushes as her heart races and body feels hot. She tells him her name. He asks her to explain later. Based on his abnormal status detection skill, the antidote he gave her has worked. Before she can even ask when he gave it, he cuts her off and says it's time to move. A bandit charges at Ariake, but he knocks him back with a much stronger blow than before. Lacri is amazed. He just struck the bandit 10 times in one move. She wonders if he combined multiple skills. Ariake confirms it, then asks if she really saw that. Suddenly, he grabs an arrow midair, one that had been flying toward him. The bandit chief grabs Lacri as a hostage and threatens to end her slowly. Lacri apologizes to Ariake, feeling foolish that he risked everything to save her and she still got caught. Ariake smirks and says the bandit doesn't stand a chance against her. He reminds her of his earlier strike and how she saw every detail. He believes she has eyes that can slow down her perception of enemy attacks. She just has to focus. Though she's confused, the chief laughs at Ariake's confidence and runs toward Lacri. But then he freezes. There is something strange about Lacri's aura now. Ariake tells him that a simple knife won't be enough to hold her. She stares the chief down with intimidating eyes and escapes his grasp with a strike. Ariake compliments her, and she's shocked that the chief really did seem to move in slow motion. She asks if he helped her. He says no, it was her own power. He tells her that when she's defending or dodging, she needs to follow her opponent's movements with her lance. That way, they'll eventually crash into it themselves. She understands. The chief tries to attack again, claiming he isn't done yet. He says he'll torture her to death, but Lacri opens her eyes wide, tracking every motion he makes. Everything slows down. Before the chief can strike, she blocks him and glides her lance along his neck, taking him down. The remaining bandits are stunned. Both Ariake and the kid are too strong. They flee. Lacri prepares to chase them, but Ariake stops her. He's already set traps in the forest. Those bandits will be caught eventually. He explains that he originally came here to clear the bandits out for the local village. Since there were too many, he set traps to take them all out at once without alerting them. Then she showed up. He apologizes for getting her involved. But Lacri doesn't mind. Thanks to him, she's grown stronger. She can still feel the lingering numbness from awakening her ability. She wants to learn more from him, not just about power, but how to wield it. She says she wishes to become his apprentice. Ariake and Lacri head to a house in the village where a kind lady greets them with roasted boar and other delicious food. Since they defeated the bandits, she says it's the least she can do. Ariake asks if he can get 5 more servings of roasted boar, mentioning that another companion will be joining them soon. During their meal, Ariake learns that Lacri was kicked out of the hero party. He mentions that they are in the same boat, which surprises Lacri. She says it makes sense for her since she's just a talentless loser, but she never imagined the same would happen to someone like him. Ariake asks if she truly believes she's talentless. She explains that's what her party members always said, and when she was attacked in the mountains, she felt useless on her own. The only reason she managed to strike back was because of him. Being chosen by the Holy Lance doesn't automatically make someone skilled, she says. Without real ability, it means nothing. Ariake takes her hands in his and says that when he held her hand earlier, he noticed something. Despite her delicate frame, her hands were covered in calluses, proof of her effort and dedication. He points out that she didn't run away even when surrounded by bandits or taken hostage. Instead, she stood her ground and chose to fight. That determination is the mark of a true warrior. He asks her what about that is talentless. Lacri begins to cry. She says her weakness has haunted her for so long. People always look down on her for being weak and for having no special skills. Since being chosen, she had to struggle alone. She followed the path without regrets, desperate to grow stronger. But now, Ariake has acknowledged her. He called her a warrior and proved to her that her efforts weren't in vain. With a grateful heart, she thanks him. He tells her it's too soon to cry. She still has untapped potential. He asks her if she remembers seeing the number of strikes he used when they first met. She says she does and explains that she has above-average dynamic vision. Even so, back then, she couldn't react to the strikes, specifically Vivia's. She recalls the precise way Vivia struck, using the recoil from one move to power the next. Ariake immediately recognizes it as the Rondomir Waltz technique. It's a complicated skill most people can't comprehend, yet she understood it just by seeing it once. Suddenly, Colette makes a dramatic entrance, acting lovey-dovey and apologizing for being gone so long. Then she notices Lacri and asks who she is. Lacri introduces herself and explains that Ariake saved her. Colette is surprised that Ariake managed to help someone in such a short time. She watches how Lacri looks at him, then quickly introduces herself too. Just as she begins to boast about being the youngest daughter of the dragon clan, the lady brings out the roasted beef. Colette forgets everything else and starts eating. After their meal, they head to a wide-open area to test Lacri's abilities. Lacri is excited to demonstrate her first basic maneuver with the lance, but Ariake asks her to show him Vivia's Rondomir Waltz instead. He asks Colette to be her sparring partner. Colette agrees, though she wonders if it's safe to attempt such a technique after only seeing it once. Lacri confidently says she can do it with her lance, which surprises Colette. The sparring match begins. Lacri mimics the powerful strikes of the Rondomir Waltz and Colette blocks them. After a few exchanges, Lacri grows tired and admits she can't match the hero's speed or strength. Ariake praises her progress. Having seen Vivia use the technique for years, even he is amazed by her ability to copy it. He gives her skill a name, Mirrored Mastery. He explains that her skill allows her to pick up on people's habits and movements, enabling her to learn both offensive and defensive techniques just by watching. It's not simply imitation, she can detect openings and craft the perfect counterattack. In other words, once she has seen a move, she won't lose to it again. Lacri reflects that her body had been instinctively reacting all along. However, she realizes she struggles to use the skill offensively. Ariake tells her that to truly master Mirrored Mastery, she needs to blend it into her attacks. Since her body already dodges instinctively, learning offensive use won't be difficult, it just takes training. Bowing deeply, Lacri thanks him. After being abandoned by the hero party, she felt lost, but now she sees a path forward. Ariake has helped her realize she can become stronger, and she vows to work even harder. Out of the blue, Ariake offers her a place in his party. With a holy weapon at her side, it would be a good addition. Plus, friendly competition pushes growth, and he could give her more guidance. Lacri lights up and asks if he is really letting her become his disciple. Ariake starts sweating as Lacri stares at him with sparkling eyes. He extends his hand and says he's supposed to be retired, but if that's what she truly wants, he'll accept her as a disciple. She clasps his hand and thanks him, calling him Master Ariake. Now that she's a disciple, it's time to begin her training. First, she must master Mirrored Mastery. Her growth in the mountains was incredible, and there's no better training than real combat. Ariake then invites her to join him in the upcoming Imperial Duel. Lacri asks Ariake if the Imperial Duel is just between him and the hero. Ariake says he's fine with her being involved too, since the whole point of the duel is to show off the strength of the hero's party. Basically, it's damage control after Bibia lost his holy sword. Now they're trying to paint Ariake as the villain since he got kicked out of the party, and because Lacri was kicked out too, it shouldn't be a problem. Lacri is fired up and promises to give it her all so she won't drag him down. Ariake appreciates her energy, but reminds her that he's only here to decide the training regimen and offer support. He already told her that training with the real deal is better, and she needs a fighting style that suits her. That's why her opponent will be a martial arts expert, Colette. Colette and Lacri start their training, and when Lacri gets worn out, Ariake calls for a break. Lacri apologizes for not getting a chance to counter. Colette tells her that she won't win if she only stays on the defense, but Ariake cuts in and says she's missing the point. He wants Lacri to master the perfect art of defense. Both girls look confused, so Ariake explains that Lacri doesn't need brute strength to win. Her mirror mastery skill will compensate for that. Once she sees an attack, she'll never get hit by it again, and then she'll be able to counter. She'll turn her opponent's strength into her advantage. Given her holy lance and strong will, a counter-oriented style fits her best. But if she can't defend in time, she won't be able to trigger her skill at all, which would make her power useless. So she needs to learn how to avoid getting hit altogether. Colette now understands and nods. Ariake tells her to throw unpredictable attacks and gradually make them harder. Colette gets excited and jokes that if Lacri can block all her serious punches, she passes. But once she realizes what he's asking, she's surprised because it's not going to be easy. Ariake walks up to Lacri and says he believes in her. Lacri blushes and promises to do her best. They duel again, and after a while, they're both worn out. Ariake tells them that's enough for today. Lacri gets up and says she still doesn't understand Colette's last move, so she begs her to explain by calling her big sister. Colette lights up, thrilled that someone finally sees her as older since most treat her like a kid even though she's older than most humans. She tells Lacri not to worry, her big sis will teach her everything. Ariake watches, relieved they're getting along. He can see the party's morale and camaraderie getting stronger. If they keep this up, Lacri will improve quickly, especially once she learns Colette's martial arts. Colette then tries to explain her move using strange expressions. Lacri looks lost and turns to Ariake, hoping he can translate, but he's just as confused. Colette tries again, but it's no use. Ariake admits he doesn't understand martial arts either and wishes someone were around who could. Right then, a wolf with Alicia on its back shows up. She calls out to Ariake, saying she finally caught up to him. Ariake recognizes the wolf's voice and realizes it's Fenrir in her beast form. Alicia gets annoyed, saying she told Fenrir not to meet Ariake yet. Colette, on the other hand, happily greets them and asks if Alicia finally made Fenrir her familiar. Colette then tells Ariake that with Lacri joining, they got more members now. Alicia is a bit shocked. Her instincts have been going off during the journey, and now she sees why. She eyes Lacri and is surprised by her looks. Lacri nervously introduces herself as Ariake's disciple and asks if she's the great saintess Alicia. Alicia thinks Lacri is a boy and is impressed. Even though he doesn't look flashy, he's elegant and has charm, a proper pretty boy. Lacri is excited to meet her idol, and Alicia is charmed right back. She admits her radar was off this time. Fenrir then changes into her human form to greet everyone and thanks Alicia's friends for looking after her. Colette and Lacri are both blown away by Mommy Fenrir's beauty. Ariake reminds them to focus on the training. Colette again starts using her confusing explanations and Alicia joins in. She seems to understand and explains that Colette is talking about her movements to help Lacri develop counters. Ariake is surprised. Back during the fight with the Mimic, Alicia's martial arts were already close to Colette's level. Alicia advises Colette to tailor her techniques to Lacri's abilities, since humans are physically limited. Ariake and Lacri are stunned that Alicia could understand Colette's gibberish. Alicia starts demonstrating moves while using even more nonsense words, and somehow she and Colette get each other perfectly. Meanwhile, Ariake and Lacri are more lost than ever. Ariake asks Colette if she can explain in a way that makes sense, but she struggles to put it into words. She just wants Lacri to learn how to use her opponent's strength against them. Lacri still doesn't get it. Then Fenrir steps in and tells them not to move first. She explains that they need to sense the opponent's presence, energy, and breathing. Once they can read their movements, they just have to move with them. Fenrir asks Colette if that's what she meant, and Colette confirms. Finally, Lacri gets it. Fenrir says footwork is essential to making those counterattacks effective. Ariake thanks her for the help, and she brushes it off, saying she was just passing time. Seeing Lacri hold the holy lance brought back memories. She walks up to Ariake and tells him not to worry. She's doing this because he's her master. Alicia pulls her back, saying she was getting too close. She's flustered and says she won't forgive Fenrir if anything happens to Ariake, since he's her childhood friend. Lacri asks Ariake how many women are around him. He tells her there are 2 more besides their current group. While everyone is talking, Ariake watches from a distance. He's glad that Lacri's training is going smoothly, with Alicia translating and Fenrir's insights. Lacri will grow fast. Just then, Alicia calls out to him, pointing out that Lacri has been staring at him the whole time. He mutters the word pretend, and Alicia responds that she doesn't care whether he's pretending or not. He should at least look like he's paying attention. He gets what she means and asks if maybe they should put on a little show. Colette and Lacri are going at it with some serious moves. Lacri is blocking Colette's strikes way better than before. It's been 2 weeks, and her improvement is impressive. She can now read all of Colette's attacks clearly. Ariake has a new plan. He's stepping things up by adding Alicia to the match. Now Lacri has to face both Colette and Alicia. Alicia suddenly joins in with a surprise strike. Lacri manages to dodge, but not fast enough. Something feels off. Her hands feel strange and Bryonak won't move how she wants. Alicia tells her that she's put a barrier around her. She's added weight to Bryonak to make it proper training. That means Lacri now has to move faster and watch even more carefully to keep up with Alicia's long-reach strikes and the now heavier Bryonak. While Lacri is focused on Alicia, Colette sneaks up behind her and reminds her not to forget about her. It's overwhelming. 2 against 1 is brutal. Alicia keeps smiling like a saintess and says Lacri's doing fine. Then she adds that if Lacri dies, she'll just revive her. That scares Lacri more than anything. Even though they're both attacking together, neither of them can land a clean hit. Lacri is dodging every normal strike. Colette gets excited and suggests it might be time to use special skills. She says a dragon's value is in its fire. Alicia immediately worries Colette might burn down the whole village. Lacri is sweating, panicking, but thinking that even if she dies, she'll be revived. Still, she has to stop Colette no matter what. As Colette inhales, ready to unleash fire, Ariake steps in. He activates skills on both of them. He weakens Colette's power and increases Lacri's resistance. He wants Lacri to survive the impact. Even with a weakened strike, it's still powerful. But knowing Ariake casts a skill on her fills Lacri with energy. She feels like her powers multiplied 100-fold, and she braces to take the flames head-on. Ariake tells Alicia to cast a barrier around him in the village. She does it, but also begs him to cast a spell on her too. It's been so long since he protected her with a spell. Ariake's confused. Her barriers are way stronger than his skills. Alicia looks disappointed and says that's what she gets for being strong. Then they all feel a blazing heat wave. Colette's powering up, her mouth glowing. Alicia watches closely. Fenrir tells her to pay attention and see what the Holy Lance's wielder is really capable of. A massive fire wave crashes toward Lacri like flaming meteors. She's scared. Without Ariake's power, she wouldn't be able to stand. But she trusts Bryonak. She centers her balance and guards herself. The only thing she can do is swing with everything she's got. Later, Ariake praises her for withstanding Colette's full blast. The explosion tossed both of them into the river, but at least it cooled them down. Lacri stands in the current aching, while Alicia heals her. Ariake says she's finally mastered the defensive skills needed to use her mirrored mastery. However, she's still not using Bryonak to its full potential. That's something they'll work on in the next phase of training. He figures she should discover Bryonak's real power herself, so he proposes a quest. They head into a dungeon, the Goblin Nest. Lacri takes on goblins with her lance. Colette punches them straight in the face. Alicia traps and blasts them with her barrier skills. Fenrir freezes and crushes them with her breath. The senpai are having a blast. Ariake tells them it's not supposed to be a training session, but Lacri says watching them is helping her learn. Since they're almost done clearing the goblins, she wants to absorb as much as possible. The party feels well balanced now, especially with Lacri's new defensive strength. Ariake, however, starts to worry about Vivia's party. Alicia overhears and informs him that Vivia has added new members, Basta, the porter, and Lorelei, the former temporary healer, now officially part of the hero's party. Ariake already knows Lorelei is an efficient healer, so he's not too concerned. Still, if they hadn't kicked Lacri out, they'd have another powerful ally. Maybe Vivia has gotten so strong he doesn't need the Holy Lance. If that's the case, Ariake and his team need to be ready for the upcoming duel. Then Fenrir senses goblins heading their way. She says they'll be here in 10 seconds. The girls prepare and take a solid formation. Ariake watches, feeling confident about his team. The goblins charge in, but the battle ends quickly. They're all wiped out. Fenrir senses no more goblins nearby. Suddenly, the ground rumbles and a hidden entrance opens in the dungeon wall. Ariake calls it a secret dungeon. That means a high-level boss must be lurking inside. Colette laughs and says this will be a great trial for Lacri. She gets focused immediately, and so the heroes enter the hidden dungeon. They head down a long staircase until they reach a door that leads into a grand hall. Inside, the Goblin King is sitting proudly on his throne, chomping down his bloody meal. The creature is an S-ranked monster, far more dangerous than the goblins outside. Alicia looks worried. If the king commands his minions, he could wipe out an entire nation. The meat before him is a mangled mess. No way to tell if it's livestock or human. The Goblin King stares at Ariake, who apologizes for interrupting his mealtime. But they come to take him out. The king rises and swings at Ariake, who dodges and leaps into the air. Ariake notices how precise the king's swing was despite his massive size. That confirms it. This monster is definitely S-rank. The king growls and charges after Ariake, swinging his axe. He misses and splits a pillar in half. Ariake realizes just how powerful this thing is. Normally, he would avoid fighting a monster like this, but today is different. It's the perfect chance for the Holy Lance wielder to shine. He lands beside Lacri and activates a skill on her. His plan is simple. Let Lacri take the lead and see if she can block the king's first strike. If she manages, the others will follow up with their attacks. Lacri hesitates and tells Ariake she can't do it, but her hesitation comes too late. The king is already charging at her with his axe ready. She pulls herself together. She has Ariake's support and her teammates are behind her. She braces herself. The axe comes down and she blocks it with everything she's got. The king's strength presses against her, and she feels like her body's about to be crushed. One slip and she's done. Fear floods her, but she digs deep. She remembers how Brionac chose her when she was weak. She almost lost it once, but now she's stronger. She begs Brionac to help her protect the people she cares about. A wave of powerful energy bursts from Brionac and knocks the king back. Ariake shouts for Fenrir and Colette to move in. They jump in and knock the king to the ground. Alicia finishes it off by locking him in place with her barrier. Lacri thanks the girls, saying they're incredible, but Fenrir gives her credit. She was the one who opened the path for them, and Ariake trusted her enough to send her in without casting any real spell. Alicia adds that Ariake only pretended to cast a skill. Lacri is shocked and asks why. Ariake tells her she didn't need it. She already had the strength to block the king's attack. The problem wasn't her power, it was that her heart hadn't caught up yet. She lacked belief in herself, but she took that final step on her own. Lacri admits that something felt different when she blocked that strike. Everything felt light, like she was absorbing the blow instead of just deflecting it. Ariake explains that it's Brionac's true ability, dimensional interference. She remembers her father once mentioned it. Brionac can tamper with dimensions and reduce external force. She asks if that means she can send the impact into another dimension. Before Ariake can answer, the Goblin King stirs again. The barrier is cracking. The king breaks free and charges at them. Ariake calls out commands. Alicia is to freeze his movements with her barriers. Fenrir creates a distraction. Colette powers up. Lacri takes the front line and handles defense. The king swings again, and Lacri blocks it with more ease this time. Her strength is awakened. Alicia locks him down with multiple barriers, and Lacri notices how his swings are now easier to read. With less room to move, he's more predictable. Fenrir slams into the monster with a powerful kick, drawing his attention. Ariake then casts several skills on Colette. She can feel the boost. Each step is heavy with power. She jumps in and starts pounding the king with her move. 3-step destruction. The Goblin King crashes to the ground. Colette wonders out loud how strong the king was supposed to be. Compared to her and Ariake, he feels underwhelming. Ariake praises her performance and confirms that he saw her technique at work. Colette spins around ready to ask if she made him proud, but the king jumps back into action. He's about to hit her from behind when Lacri rushes in and blocks it. She insists they leave defense to her, but the angle is tricky. Suddenly, she finds herself in a glowing realm. She feels completely in sync with Brionac. Energy flows through her. She lifts Brionac into the air and flies above the king, landing a final blow, an elegant slicing move called Flash of Wicked Dragon. As the king collapses, Lacri stares in disbelief. The others cheer for her. That move was incredible. Lacri gives the credit to Brionac, but Ariake tells her it was her own strength. Only the strong can unlock a holy weapon's power. Brionac chose her because she's worthy. Lacri starts crying. She says she could have never done it without them. She takes off her robe, kneels before Ariake, and says she'll devote her life and her lance to him. The other girls blush and squirm. Then Alicia walks up just as Lacri's hair ribbon snaps. Her hair falls down and Alicia's eyes widen. She stares at Lacri's chest and wonders if Lacri has finally turned into a girl. Alicia trembles in anger as it finally sinks in that Lacri is a girl. No one saw it coming. Fenrir, though, always had a feeling. Maybe because of her animal instincts. Alicia feels like she just got stabbed in the gut. She quickly looks away, trying to keep her cool, thinking it was rude of her to assume the new disciple would be a boy. If anything, this kind of assumption might get her in trouble. What really gets to her is how graceful and sincere Lacri is, and the fact that she is Ariake's direct apprentice. That alone makes her a serious threat in the whole love triangle. Alicia starts thinking about what Lacri meant when she offered her life and lands to Ariake. The meaning behind that isn't sitting right with her. She looks at Ariake to see how he's taking it. His reply is simple. He tells Lacri to devote her lands and says it's good to have someone strong in the group. Alicia is stunned by how clueless he is. She wonders if they even heard the same thing. She glances at Colette, who's clearly not taking the news well. Colette is sitting there in full despair, unable to process that Lacri is a girl and that she now has another rival. Ariake just stands there watching the girls spin into chaos. Lacri speaks up, saying she wasn't trying to hide anything. But now that everyone knows she's a girl, there's a whole new set of feelings and trust building around their master, and that could be a problem. Alicia and Colette, now both dealing with the same love drama, find themselves strangely united. Lacri apologizes. She says that even though she's a girl, she didn't mean to deceive anyone. That doesn't change her desire to fight beside them and pay back what she owes. She tells them that she wants to protect them and hopes they will let her stay with the party. Her words hit hard. Both girls feel a little guilty and tell her not to worry. They would never dream of kicking her out. Colette feels ashamed. For someone who's supposed to be a proud dragon, she knows she acted petty. Alicia feels the same way. Fenrir watches it all and wonders if the two are just scared of some younger girl stealing their man. She finds it pathetic. Alicia snaps at her to keep quiet. She reaches out and grabs Lacri's hand, saying that from now on, they are sisters. Their mission is to protect their master together. The three girls stand together with a shared purpose. Ariake looks confused and wonders what the girls are up to. Alicia says she needs to talk to them. Ariake is curious, but she tells him it doesn't concern him. She explains to the others that they all have something on their minds and suggests they get a big room for a girls' night. They need to talk things out properly. Fenrir asks if this is going to be a slumber party. Colette lights up, saying she has never been to one of those before. Fenrir is already planning the snacks and drinks and a night of solid girl talk. Colette agrees and tells the master they'll go pick up some supplies. Alicia sighs, wondering if this is really what they're doing. Fenrir pulls her away, saying it's her fault for letting her loose in the first place. Alicia tells her to quit blaming her. Later, with snacks spread evenly between them, they settle in for the girls' night. Alicia says they will keep following Ariake, but for now, they need to talk during this party. Colette wants to kick it off with her signature dragon breath. Everyone quickly shuts her down. No one wants to get hit with that stink. Lacri looks down at her new dress and says it's exciting that they made her something so pretty. Alicia and Colette look at her with warm smiles like older sisters doting on their baby sibling. But they agree that Ariake cannot be allowed to see her dressed like that. Fenrir is already tired of the warm-up and wants to dive into the real stuff. Alicia goes ahead and asks Lacri how she feels about Ariake. Lacri looks away and says she respects him a lot. Then she asks, what about Alicia? Alicia starts blushing and says they've known each other since they were kids. Colette, on the other hand, is the only one who straight up says she loves him. The other girls admire how fearless she is about her feelings. Fenrir eyes Alicia and points out how different that is from someone else in the room. Alicia completely breaks down and finally admits that she loves him too. Lacri grins and says she already knew. Alicia says that it must be because Lacri has the holy lands and those eyes that see everything. Lacri just replies that it's obvious to anyone paying attention. The only one who doesn't seem to get it is Ariake, who is as clueless as ever. Now that everyone's honest about their feelings, Alicia talks about how he always misses her signals, but is still the first to help her when she's down. He notices everything from behind the scenes. Anne might be slick, but with a guy like that, how can anyone not fall for him? The others look at her and realize that she really is glowing. Lacri wishes she could be like her, to give everything to someone she loves. Colette starts sulking and says she's not cute at all. The girls tell her she's wrong. She's totally cute. Lacri says she wears boyish clothes and that doesn't make her cute either. They all scold her for being too hard on herself. They agree she's adorable and decide it's time to make some changes. First step is giving her combat suit a bit of flair to bring out more of her charm. They throw around ideas and decide the final details can be left to the tailor, something that shows off a little more of her figure and gives her some confidence. They keep brainstorming designs and finally agree that she would look amazing using a lance. Lacri doesn't seem fully convinced. Meanwhile, in a dark castle, a deep voice echoes through the halls. The Holy Lance is headed to Belta. It seems they only recently found out that Ariake has taken in its wielder. They can't believe how the man acts like the world revolves around him. The original plan was for the hero to raise the barrier of the Holy Lance and corrupt hearts with darkness. But things are going in a different direction. The voice tells his followers that if Ariake is actually skilled, then yes, the wielder of the lance might become a major problem. But if he is weak, there's no need to adjust the plan. The voice laughs with excitement, already looking forward to the day he faces Ariake in an imperial duel. In the lively marine town of Marine Belta, the streets are full of celebration. People rush around, cheering and watching the hero's party as they parade through the city. The crowd's excitement feeds the hero's ego, and he walks proudly, looking down at the people with a smug expression. One party member mutters that the only reason he acts like this is because no one can hear what he's actually saying. Another one just smiles, happy to see the hero finally getting the welcome he thinks he deserves. To him, this is exactly how the hero's party should be treated. One of the more level-headed members points out that this parade is only happening because the town is so far from the capital. News hasn't reached here yet. Still, they can't believe the city is throwing a celebration in their honor. The hero doesn't care about the details. He's just happy to be called a hero. A teammate tells him to calm down and reminds him that expectations are high. The Imperial duel is only 3 days away. The hero brushes it off, saying he'll do whatever he wants. Someone else tells Lorelei to stop being such a downer. Being famous means putting on a show sometimes. Right then, the Chancellor appears. He tells them that as heroes appointed by the kingdom, they have a responsibility to meet the people's expectations. The hero blinks in surprise. He wonders what the Chancellor is doing here. Maybe he's here to join the parade, but the Chancellor says he's come to deliver some news. Lacri, the one who used to wield the Holy Lance and who was kicked out of the party, has now joined Ariake. She will also be competing in the Imperial duel. The entire party goes silent. Lorelei quietly says she's glad Lacri is okay. But the hero starts laughing uncontrollably, like something inside him snapped. He says this is the funniest thing he's ever heard, that the two most useless people ended up together in one team. One of the other members laughs along, and the hero struggles to keep a straight face as the parade continues. The rest of them joke about how desperate Ariek and Lacri must be to team up, saying desperate people belong together. Lorelei speaks up, saying Lacri had real potential. They could have done more if they had trained seriously. The hero tells her not to worry about it. According to him, Lacri was weak and could never handle his power anyway. Another member adds that her defense skills were just too intense for someone like Lacri to handle. Big Ugly jumps in saying there's a big cash prize for the winner of the duel. Maybe they could use it for shopping. They start chatting about how they'll split the money and how easy the duel is going to be. So even suggests going out for drinks. Lorelei is frustrated that they're already celebrating when they haven't even won anything. The Chancellor listens and points out that it sounds like a few of them have some faith in Ariek. Lorelei tries to walk it back, saying they should act more like real heroes. One of the members tells her to stop trying to be perfect, that people only care about what they want to believe. To them, the hero is just someone to admire. They don't need to know the truth. Lorelei turns to Pulala and asks what she meant. Pulala laughs loudly and admits that something feels off about this whole group. She says it feels like they're all stuck in something they can't escape. Lorelei says she would leave if she ever got the chance. Pulala disagrees. Her eyes shine with something strange. She says she wants to stay right where she is. She wants to be one of the kingdom's top heroes. There are things she wants to do with the title. The Chancellor watches her with a cold expression and leaves to get ready for the evening banquet. As the sun sets, the sky lights up with fireworks, and everyone watches the display. They all say it looks beautiful. They're sure that under the hero's lead, victory is guaranteed, especially when facing someone like Ariek. Later, the hero is shown to a lavish room, one even better than a 5-star restaurant. He looks around, smiling to himself, saying heroes deserve this kind of luxury. He says he's grateful first for getting his sword back and now for having his reputation restored. The Chancellor cuts him off coldly, saying he doesn't care about gratitude. What he wants is results. The hero promises to win the duel against Ariek. He calls Ariek a sly fox and says he won't let him get away with cheating again. He claims Ariek always looks down on him. The Chancellor listens and says nothing. The hero grins and lays out his plan for the duel. The Chancellor says it might work if they stretch the rules a bit, but it won't be a clean win. After a long speech about fighting dirty, the hero shrugs and says that all is fair in love and war. If crushing Ariek is what it takes to please the crowd, then that's what he'll do. The Chancellor then pulls out a strange object. It looks like a blob of flesh. The hero stares at it, asking what it is. The Chancellor says it's Sukuna's finger from Alibaba. He tells the hero to swallow it. It will be effective and act as their trump card when the time comes. The hero hesitates, saying he'll keep it with him for now. The Chancellor nods and tells him that both the trump card and the hero are important pieces in this plan. With a chilling smile, the Chancellor turns and leaves. Ariek and his party finally arrive in the marine city of Belta the day before the Imperial duel. The streets are packed with people and merchants calling out to them with enthusiasm. Ariek notices how the entire city seems to be buzzing for the upcoming event. Alicia quickly picks up on something else. The people are celebrating the hero as if he is the hope of the entire world. They pass by a theater where performers call the hero the light of the world and claim that Ariek must be defeated tomorrow. Alicia wants to go up there and shut them up. Even a little dragon is fired up and wants to burn them down. Lacri, watching it all, starts to wonder if they even stand a chance. Ariek calmly tells her that the Empire's real goal with the duel is to help fix the image of the hero's party. They are the faces of the Empire and need to recover their honor. Fenrir adds that the enemy will probably do whatever it takes to win. Ariek looks at Lacri, saying this is her moment to show how far she's come. He looks up the sky, thinking that although they've done foolish things in the past, casting Lacri aside and hurting her like that was too cruel. He wants to make them pay for it. By facing her in battle, the hero will realize just how big a mistake he made. Ariek puts his hopes on her and tells her to teach them a hard lesson. Lacri nods and promises to give it her all. Fenrir wonders if the heroes are really strong enough to get their master this fired up. Alicia reminds them that they need to focus on the duel and not get distracted by all the stalls. Ariek, however, says they can relax a bit and even try some festival food. A nearby merchant calls out to the group, offering to sell them weapons at a discount. He points at Ariek, saying that his sword looks cheap and you should upgrade it. Ariek thinks for a second. His sword is only meant for self-defense, but if things go south in the duel, he might need something better. Lacri asks if that's what he really wants. Ariek says that if she's fighting by his side, then he also needs to be reliable. He chooses his staff, but the thing feels heavy and awkward in his hands. Alicia offers him her own, but Ariek turns her down. Alicia is left wondering why. After all, she's the great saintess. The moment her title gets mentioned, a crowd starts forming around her. She tries to deny it, saying they got the wrong person, but people begin swarming and almost pull her away from the party. Fenrir steps in with a sharp warning that makes the crowd back off. Alicia thanks her, and Fenrir reminds them that being identified here would cause problems. Ariek agrees, saying it's time to move on. On the day of the Imperial duel, the Chancellor informs the king that everything is set. The king of Granheim arrives to a round of applause and asks why there are so many participants. The chancellor explains the duel format. It will be a 2 versus 2 match. Each side will select one other party member. The combatants will be split into frontline and backline roles, adding a layer of strategy that should make the duels more interesting. He promises the king that he won't be disappointed. The hero's party enters the arena and is met with roaring cheers. Ariake's entrance, however, is followed by cold silence. The little dragon looks around and is amazed by the size of the crowd. Alicia tries to cover her face, knowing that if anyone recognizes her, it could spell trouble for Ariake. The hero walks past with a smug grin and tells Ariake to run away while he can. Ariake calmly wonders why he should. He has every reason to stand here and plans to make the hero regret how he treated Lakri. The hero refuses to take responsibility, calling Ariake a worthless bug that should be squashed. He draws his sword and the crowd explodes with excitement, feeding his ego. He laughs and says that this is what real admiration looks like. He asks if Ariake can say the same. Lakri looks around, uneasy from the overwhelming cheers and the hero's party mocking her. Doubt starts creeping into her mind. Ariake notices and tells her they got this. They're not alone. A small section of the crowd is cheering for them. These are beast folk from Madison who traveled all the way here to support them. Some of them even bet their entire life savings on Ariake's party. Alicia is shocked to see them here. The hero brushes it off, saying that his countless fans make Ariake's little group meaningless. Ariake responds that it's not about how many, it's about who. That line strikes a nerve. The hero snaps and tells him to shut up. The roles are announced. On the hero's team, the hero himself will take the front line while Lorelei supports from the back. For Ariake's team, Lakri takes the front while Ariake stays in the rear. The hero taunts them, calling them losers and accusing them of trying to trick him with some fake strategy. Lakri yells back, revealing her new outfit and saying she'll make them regret everything. The hero stares at her in shock, only now realizing she's a girl. He says if he had known, he might have been nicer. Then he smirks at Team Ariake, saying that if they're looking for a new master, he could give them a good time. The girls are furious and shut him down immediately. The match is about to begin, and the hero says he'll make sure they get a beautiful fight. The bell rings, and the hero wastes no time. He blasts into the air and charges straight at Ariake with his finishing move. Aurora Burst lights up the field, and Bud Light magic shimmers around Ariake. He uses his damage reduction skill, Iron Wall, to defend himself. The hero confidently believes that Ariake's defense can't handle his power, but Ariake blocks the attack cleanly, calling the hero a fool. He powers up his own stats, increasing his critical hit rate and physical damage. He slams his staff into the hero's gut, launching him back into the wall. The crowd falls silent as the hero chokes and coughs from the blow. Ariake shakes his head, shocked that the hero didn't even bother using a proper defense stance. The hero's party is stunned. They can't believe that Aurora Burst got countered. Electric says the move had so many gaps that even she could have dodged it. Team Ariake starts to get pumped. Alicia says Aurora Burst is faster than Randomizer Vaults, and if she can keep up with that, she'll be fine in this match. The crowd is no longer cheering. Some are starting to question everything. Ariake shouts at the hero, saying he must be holding back. There's no way that weak move was his best shot. The hero stands up, trying to act cool. Ariake tells Lakri that things are about to get harder. The hero yells that he's supposed to fight Lakri and that Ariake needs to back off. Ariake calmly replies that he only attacked because he had to defend himself. The hero complains to the referee, accusing Ariake of cheating. Surprisingly, the referee agrees and labels Ariake a cheater. Lakri steps forward and tells her master that she will take it from here. She won't let them drag his name through the mud. She is his disciple after all. Ariake agrees and steps back. The hero smirks, thinking he's got this. He plans to beat Lakri fast, and once Ariake tries to step in again, he'll take them both out. As the backliners move to the edge of the arena, the real match begins between Lakri and the hero. Ariake watches the hero rant on about how he's going to crush Lakri, like it is already decided. The match is seconds from starting, and the hero shows no signs of holding back his cocky attitude. As soon as the bell rings, Ariake makes a sharp move in the opposite direction. He watches the opposing frontliners rush past one another. Lakri keeps her eyes locked on the hero and adjusts her stance. She is able to track his movements clearly. Now all that is left is for her to stay grounded, to keep calm, and not let the pressure push her into doing something reckless. She reminds herself that she is her master's disciple. She is trained for this moment, and she is determined to fight a match she will never regret. She takes the initiative and unleashes a fast series of strikes aimed at the hero. Her form is clean and sharp, but he dodges all of them with practiced ease. The hero starts thinking back to his earlier exchange with Ariake. He knows now that his first attack was sloppy and rushed, but he convinces himself that against Lakri, it will not make any difference. Even if she is doing well now, it won't last. He tells himself that it would be boring to end things right away, so he might as well draw it out and have some fun while he's at it. He brings his sword down at her and their eyes lock. One is full of arrogance and ego, the other filled with calm focus and strong resolve. He lashes out, shouting at her for daring to meet his gaze. He calls her useless, and says she should know her place. At first, it really does look like he is overpowering her. The crowd roars for him as he keeps pressing the attack. But even as he pushes forward, the hero is sweating more than anyone else in the arena. He keeps smiling anyway. He is already planning the next step. Once the match returns to 2 versus 2, he will make Ariek pay for stepping in. He will use Lacri as bait, wait for Ariek to try to protect her, and then take them both out at once. He sees the perfect ending and starts hyping himself up again. But when the dust settles, Lacri is still standing strong. She has not taken a single hit. Her stance is solid. She looks ready to go another full round without blinking. The hero stares at her in disbelief. His party members, watching from the sidelines, wonder if this is all some act. Maybe he was just pretending to struggle, trying to create a dramatic moment to fire up the crowd. But deep down, they realize that he is giving it everything. One of them questions whether Lacri is just dodging and playing defensive, and if she even has the ability to strike back properly. Another one says that trying to defend with a lance is foolish anyway. The party's mage remains calm and insists that they should respect the fight. He reminds them that this is a sacred match, but Pulala loses patience and yells that they only pretend to be respectful because it is an imperial duel. She says what really matters is the show and the people want to be entertained. No one cares about honor if the match is boring. Back in the ring, Lacri keeps dodging every single move the hero throws at her. Her rhythm is tight, her reactions are sharp, and her confidence is building with every step. The hero starts to feel the pressure. He finally admits to himself that this won't be easy. He decides that it's time to finish things with Aurora Burst. He tells himself that he is done holding back. He is going to destroy them both, and if Ariek tries anything, you will deal with him then. He still believes he is the genius strategist here. He launches forward, ready to unleash a storm of golden swords. He still cannot believe that someone like Lacri could grow this strong just by tagging along with someone like Ariek. He goes in for the finishing blow, preparing to drop his signature move. But Lacri is already waiting. She catches the incoming attack with her lance, parries the full force of it, and says she has already seen that trick before. Without hesitation, she counters the flash of the Wicked Dragon, knocking the hero back and shutting down his Aurora Burst on the spot. The audience goes silent. No one can believe she just did that. The hero stares at her, stunned, losing grip on his composure. He keeps telling himself that he can't be losing to someone so weak, but the reality keeps closing in. Lacri doesn't stop. She pushes forward and releases the third form of Wicked Dragon Breath. The impact sends the hero crashing straight into the wall with full force. Everyone in the arena freezes. The tension is thick. The hero lies against the wall, dazed and confused. He can't wrap his head around what just happened. The crowd begins to murmur, shocked that the great hero just got knocked around so hard by a girl who was once cast out of his own team. Even his own party cannot believe their eyes. Lacri just wiped the floor with him. Ariek watches with wide eyes, barely able to speak. The party's mage starts questioning everything. He wonders if Lacri really managed to grow this strong in such a short amount of time. He realizes that they can't afford to take this duel lightly. Victory is far from certain now. People in the crowd are whispering. Some of them are starting to believe the hero might actually lose. Panic spreads through the hero's party. Several of them shout that if he goes down, they're finished. They are counting on the prize money. Without it, their debt will crush them. Their dreams of clothes, jewelry, and status are about to go up in smoke. The mage tries to calm the group down, but Pulala is already losing it. She yells that she won't stick around if the hero loses. She says their team is doomed and that it was a mistake to believe in someone so pathetic. She screams that this match is her entire future, and now she has to take matters into her own hands. She declares that as the Archwizard, she's going to use the trump card the Chancellor gave them. That is their last chance. The mage tries to reason with her and says they should not do anything reckless. But Pulala is already calling out to Elda and Delia. She tells them to go after Lacri now. Alicia sees what is about to happen and shouts in outrage. She demands to know what the hell they are doing. They are about to break every rule of the sacred duel by stepping in to attack Lacri. And they are doing it right in front of everyone. The hero's party shamelessly turns the duel into a 2 versus 1. Alicia is beyond furious, her anger boiling over as she watches the two charge in on their own. She shouts that this is against every rule of the sacred duel. The mage asks the referee to step in and stop the violation. The crowd expects the match to be paused, but Ariek, standing calm as ever, tells them to let the fight continue. Everyone turns to look at him in shock. He doesn't flinch. He trusts Lacri completely. One of the new attackers smirks and mocks Lacri, saying that her defenses mean nothing against her own unique skill. She promises to finish what the so-called hero could not. She charges in with full confidence, but Lacri stays calm and activates an earth skill, slamming her lance into the ground. The battlefield shakes as jagged spikes rise up all around, sharp and tall like lances themselves. The sudden terrain traps their opponent in a cage of brittle but dangerous spikes. She starts smashing through them, scoffing at the move and calling it a childish trick. She believes the attack was meant to restrain her, but Lacri never planned to trap her. The entire move was just a setup. While the opponent is busy tearing through the lances, Lacri suddenly appears behind her. She yells out the name of her next move using the Holy Lance skill Dragon Purge. The blast sends the attacker flying. The little dragon watching from the sidelines yells in excitement, saying Lacri is amazing. Alicia is stunned and finally realizes that the spike formation was just a distraction all along. Pulala laughs out loud, saying that Delia is even more of a fool than she thought. She leans back, ready to enjoy the rest of the match, claiming it is more entertaining when they crash into each other without her doing anything. Elvis steps in next, screaming like a wild brute that he will defeat Lacri and become the greatest warrior in the kingdom. His pride swells as he imagines himself taking credit for taking down the one who beat the hero. He charges in, swinging his massive sword, his body rippling with muscle. He yells that Lacri is done for and that no one will underestimate him ever again. But Lacri stands her ground and tells him not to get ahead of himself. He shouts that they will find out soon enough and unleashes his attack, calling it Dragon Slash. A glowing dragon shape wraps around his blade as he swings. He is smiling, already convinced of victory. Her first counterattack bounces off him, and he mocks her for thinking he would fall like Delia. He brags about his rock-hard muscles and how nothing can take him down. But Lacri has other plans. Without hesitation, she calls out Dragon Surge and slams her lance forward again. This time, she lands the hit directly into his weak spot. The crowd goes quiet for a second as the brute lets out a scream heard across the arena. Not even the strongest man can take that kind of hit and keep standing. Lacri blinks and apologizes quickly. Alicia watches and mutters that this is exactly what happens when there is too much of a size difference. Femmer stares in disbelief and says she can't believe Lacri missed the jaw and accidentally landed the strike in his sweet spot. A ripple of laughter spreads through the crowd as the massive warrior rolls on the ground, clutching himself. The king watches the scene unfold with visible discomfort. What was supposed to be a ceremonial duel to inspire hope and unity has devolved into pure chaos. He groans in frustration, his hand covering his face. The Chancellor steps in beside him, offering assurance that they have measures in place to clean up the mess. He says the fix will be put into action very soon. Meanwhile, the hero's party is falling apart. Confusion and frustration ripple through their ranks. Everything is out of control. Pulala throws up her hands and calls everyone a disgrace. She scolds her teammates and tells them to get it together. All eyes turn to her as the last hope of the party. Her teammates beg her to step in and fix this disaster before they lose what little reputation they have left. Pulala activates the forbidden spell known as Lovely Puppets. This magic allows her to control unconscious or subconscious targets, boosting their physical and magical strength far beyond their limits. But the cost is high. There is a chance that the spell causes permanent damage to the body due to the overwhelming surge of power. Pulala doesn't care. As far as she's concerned, her teammates are idiots and good for nothing but being used as meat shields. She leaps onto the Berserker, pushing the spell further, using her puppets to shield her from attacks and to crush their enemies without mercy. The Berserker smashes the ground where Ariake is standing, and Pulala smiles at the raw destruction. She admits the spell is strong and there's a reason it's forbidden. She thanks the Chancellor for teaching it to her, though the mage beside her speaks up, saying that this has gone too far. Having this many fighters attacking two people breaks every rule in the book. Pulala shrugs, saying she's only using them as shields. But Ariake doesn't complain. He senses the energy rushing through the battlefield and seems excited. He wants to see just how powerful they become under the effects of the magic. He turns to Lacri and asks if she's ready. Pulala commands her puppet team to charge. The zombie-like hero immediately lunges for Ariake. Pulala watches with interest. She wonders if he is really on the defensive now. Maybe her power is too much for anyone to resist. Sure enough, under the effects of her spell, the hero's movements are completely different. He is faster, more aggressive, more unpredictable. Pulala wonders if this is the only way the hero can ever be useful. She starts to think it might be over. But to her shock, even with all that power, Ariake manages to push them back. The crowd watches in disbelief as Ariake deflects a blow from the holy sword with nothing but his stick. He grins and says it seems the hero was holding back before. Now, under the magic, he is finally showing his true potential. He even jokes that it's nice to see both of the hero's curled bangs standing up. Pulala tells the hero not to give him any breathing room. Ariake laughs, saying the spell seems to be boosting their morale. At least now he gets to face the hero at full power. The hero lunges again, stabbing wildly, but Ariake dodges each strike with ease. He teases that even as a mindless puppet, the hero fights like a D-class adventurer. The insult hits hard. The hero, despite being under mind control, looks visibly angry. Pulala notices it too. She remarks that he's supposed to be unconscious, yet he's still pissed. Ariake senses it. This is no longer a casual battle. The real fight has finally begun. He feels like he has leveled up. His team watches from the side, amazed. They all thought he was going to collapse early on, but he's still going strong. Pulala decides to let the hero stay locked in combat with Ariake. Instead, she shifts her attention to Lacri. She orders the two remaining puppets to gang up on her. But Lacri is unfazed. Instead of getting overwhelmed, she beats them down one by one. Pulala then tries to hit her with a fireball. Lackery doesn't even flinch. She dispels the magic with ease, leaving Pulala in disbelief. Meanwhile, the hero is struggling to land a hit on Ariek. Pulala grits her teeth. This is getting them nowhere. She pours more magic into the spell, stacking her own magic on top of the puppet enchantment. But even then, Ariek still manages to overpower the hero. Pulala stares, stunned. Ariek taunts her, saying her magic is so weak that it can't even mess up a strand of his hair. For Pulala, that was her strongest spell. She's horrified. She can't believe it. Ariek watches her closely. He suspects she's trying to make him drop his guard, but he knows better. He says her magic is weak because she always tries to take shortcuts. That line finally breaks her. She screams in frustration, furious at being called a fraud. She decides to stop holding back. She casts limiter removal magic. The effect is instant. Her puppets begin to explode with magic. The surge is so intense it sounds like their bones and blood vessels are tearing apart. The mage watches in horror. He whispers that they're gone. But then, the trio flies into the air, landing hard and ready to throw hands. No one can believe it. They still look like the same people, but something is off. Their faces are twisted, their bodies are twitching, and they seem more like wild beasts than humans. The crowd recoils. The sight is terrifying. People start whispering. The entire arena is unsettled. The king glares at the chaos, shouting for the chancellor. He demands to know how the kingdom's ace mage could defile the sacred arena like this. The chancellor calmly responds, saying they have ways to handle the situation. He says the solution will reveal itself soon enough. Back in the fight, Pulala orders her puppets to finish Ariek quickly. Ariek smiles. Now that he has to take on 3 enemies at once, he calls out to Lackery for backup. He can't believe they are so desperate to win that they're destroying their own bodies in the process. He tells Pulala to stop the spell before it's too late, but she refuses. She won't stop until she wins. She screams for her team to crush him. The wild hero charges again. Ariek still manages to hold them off. Pulala shouts that this is too much. Lackery charges toward her, yelling that she will never let anyone touch her master. Pulala is boiling with rage, but then her body locks up. She freezes in place. Ariek tells her that her right hand has consumed too much magic. It's finally shutting her down. Pulala panics. She turns and runs like a frightened animal. She no longer wants to fight. She doesn't want to die. The crazed look in her eyes disappears. All she wants now is to escape. She remembers the cave where they abandoned her, and for once, she just wants to flee. But her body slams into an invisible wall. A barrier surrounds the arena. She is trapped. She bangs against it, unable to leave. The crowd begins to murmur. Something has changed. They watch as Alicia steps forward, her robe falling away. The truth is revealed. She is the great saintess, the one who left the hero's party. She has returned, and now she stands with Ariek. Pulala stares in disbelief. She finally realizes the truth. The crowd starts to cheer for Ariek's team. They are seeing something new. Maybe they are not the traitors. Maybe they are the real heroes. Alicia stands tall. Pulala watches as everything she thought was hers starts slipping away. She stayed with the hero's party only to be treated like royalty. Now even that illusion is fading, and it looks like it's all about to end. The crowd begins to question if becoming a monster just to win is worth it. Is this the hero meant to save the world? Their eyes shift to Ariek and his disciples. These 4 look nothing like monsters. One by one, people in the audience start voicing that Ariek is the real hero. He saved them. Slowly, the crowd starts to take his side. Alicia tells Pulala that the spectators no longer support her and that she should bow and apologize. But Pulala refuses. Still clinging to pride, she tries to reactivate the puppets with magic. Ariek grabs her arm and tells her it's over. She has lost. She drops to her knees in defeat. Just as the referee steps up to announce the winner, a violent surge of mana explodes and throws everyone off their feet. The crowd gasps, unsure what just happened. They turn to see the hero's body twisting unnaturally. Pulala's spell has gone out of control. With her mana drained, the puppets begin to mutate. Ariek realizes that if they don't stop them now, the spell will kill them. Magic bursts shoot through the arena, and Pulala clutches her head. Something is tearing her magic apart. Ariek yells at her to stop or she'll die. The monsters keep changing, and now their screams are inhuman. In the stands, people panic as they realize something terrible is happening. The creatures begin heading toward the crowd. Ariek steps in to intercept, but things are spinning out of control. He tells Lackery to help protect the people. Someone pushes forward, begging Ariek to stop the monsters. The elves arrive, declaring their faith in him. Stella, the little dragon cat, appears and calms the crowd. She says only Lord Ariek can save them. The crowd begins to settle. Thizia steps forward, reminding them that Ariek is here. The people finally place their hope in him, cheering his name. Even the king commands him to end it. One of the monsters starts swinging his hair around like a weapon. Ariek warns him he'll go bald if he keeps that up. He tells the hero to stop. If he doesn't return to normal, he will die. With no choice, Ariek says they'll end it big. He summons glowing wings and rises above the arena. Everyone watches, stunned as he looks like an angel standing before them. He activates magic burst and enhancement, then calls down a column of thunder. Light blinds the entire field. When the smoke clears, the hero lies in a crater naked and unconscious. Ariek tells Alicia to handle him. She praises his strategy. He turns to the referee and asks for the result. The referee announces Ariak's team as the winner. The crowd erupts. Even the king cheers for them. The mage can't believe what just happened. The Empire's hero is down. He wonders what this will do to the Empire's image. The king, calm and sure, congratulates Ariak. He says this is exactly what he expected and calls him the real hero of the Empire. The king cheers for Lord Ariak, saying this is exactly what he expected from the Empire's next hero. He praises him for taking down the fake hero, and the crowd goes wild. After a fight like that, no one questions that Ariak really earned the title. Alicia is still trying to wrap her head around how the Empire just turned the title over to Ariak. Fendry suspects this might be the Empire's way of distancing itself from the old hero and cozying up to Ariak. The elves are over the moon now that Lord Ariak is finally being recognized. Ariak looks around at the crowd cheering for him, then turns his gaze to the hero who's panting and lying in a pool of shame. Ariak looks at him with pity and tells the crowd that he doesn't deserve to be called a hero. The real one, he says, is Vivia. Everyone's stunned. They argue that Ariak won and Vivia doesn't deserve the title, but Ariak insists he's still growing. He admits that Vivia can be selfish and tends to give up when it gets hard, but he didn't back down today. That shows he can change if people support him. Ariak says that even though he walked away from Vivia months ago, he still believes the guy has a long road ahead of him, and one day he'll earn the title for real. The crowd seems unsure, but since it's Ariak saying it, they slowly start cheering for Vivia too. Even the king agrees with Ariak's call. Ariak tells Vivia not to waste the crowd's support. Alicia's glad things have ended on a good note. She offers to handle the damage left behind. Ariak tells Vivia to apologize to Lacri once he's up and to learn something from this. Vivia starts trembling and throwing a tantrum, but before Alicia can step in, the Chancellor quietly walks up and reminds him that he still has a trump card left. Vivia remembers the demon flash in his hand. Alicia looks around, sensing something's off. Later, inside the castle, Ariak and Lacri are treated like royalty. A grand banquet is held in their honor. Ariak can't believe something this amazing is being thrown for them. He's never been to a celebration like this. Alicia explains that the Empire puts strength above everything. His fight won over the crowd, and now everyone can relax. People surround Ariak, congratulating him on fighting like a true hero. Even the beasts gather around. Lacri is in awe of how many people he's saved. Ariak tries to act cool like it just happened, but he smiles while talking to everyone. Seeing that smile makes Lacri's heart skip a beat. She can't believe someone like him is her master. The king and queen shower Lacri with praise too, complimenting her holy lance technique. Alicia smiles, proud of how far Lacri has come. Just then, another elf walks up to Ariak, saying it's been a while. She compliments him and shows off a picture of his face on her cape. It's fan club merch. Her eyes shine with excitement as she says this limited edition cape is just the beginning. There'll be even more Ariak merchandise soon. Ariak thanks her for supporting him when no one else did. She says if there's anything he needs, she'll gladly help. He smiles, tells her to enjoy the banquet, and she walks all happy. Everyone's having fun. Alicia wonders if even the elf princess is into Ariak now. She looks around for Colette and finds her munching through dishes non-stop. A voice asks if he wants more food, and Ariak turns to see Elga hiding his face behind a platter. A maid scolds him, saying he's not the only one trying to earn points. Ariak's confused, so Alicia fills him in. After the battle, the hero's party got bumped down to E-rank adventurers. Lacri asks what that means. Alicia explains they're only allowed to do basic jobs now, like cleaning gutters or finding lost pets. They're basically servants. The Emperor made them a deal. If they serve everyone at the banquet today, they can go back to G-rank. Lacri watches them bicker. Ariak offers to put in a good word for them, but only if they apologize to Lacri first. They're stunned. Alicia wonders aloud if cleaning gutters for a year is worse than just apologizing to a little girl. That's enough to push them into action. They finally apologize, even if it's awkward. Lacri accepts and says there's no reason not to forgive them. She won't call them out for their screw-ups, but she does have one condition. They have to always show gratitude to their master. They start to grumble, but Lacri smiles and asks if they got a problem. That shuts them up real quick. Ariak wonders where Fenrir is. She suddenly appears behind the group. He asks if she knows where Loralee is. Fenrir says she's not sure, but they should be around. Alicia hopes they didn't get caught up in the chaos and wants to find them. Ariak looks around but doesn't see the hero anywhere. Just then, like magic, he steps out from behind a curtain. His body starts twisting and morphing. He reaches out, begging Ariak for help. They realize they have to save Vivia from the monster, and the only way to do it is by working together. Colette offers to turn into a dragon and roast the monster for good, but Ariak says no, the flames would hurt Vivia too. So turning into a dragon is off the table. Pulala wonders if they really need to hold back. For Fenrir, this whole thing is nothing but child's play. The mage doubts if she can actually hold back against a monster this strong, but Ariak tells them not to stress. They just need to use the strength they have, and he'll support them however he can. After their short strategy talk, Ariek turns his focus on the monster and casts an instant death immunity spell on it. He usually casts it on allies, but this time he casts it on an enemy just to keep it alive. He tells everyone to get ready and buffs up their stats, saying he's counting on all of them. One of them uses her ultimate skill, Meteor Maelstrom, to slam the monster and send it flying into the sky. They can't believe what they're seeing. The monster is actually sailing through the air. But it's not over. The monster is trying to come back down. The barbarian steps up and shouts that he is the kingdom's shield. He blocks the monster head-on. The monster gasps. How did he stop his whole body like that? Ariek explains that it's because of a skill called Iron Wall. Arda has a body strong enough to slam into a truck and make it move. Ariek then starts chanting and powers up his magic. The monster thrashes around trying to refocus its attention. Pulala begins summoning Salamander. Her magic puts the monster on edge. It senses that a spirit is being called. But Pulala grins. This isn't a normal spirit summon. She calls out a giant reptile behind her. It's a high-tier skill that lets her possess spirits and control them. It's tough to cast, so the monster tries to crush her before she finishes. Too late, she used a chanting bypass. Ariek tells Pulala to stop holding back because the instant death immunity won't work unless she goes all out. Pulala grins. That's what she's been waiting for. Flames roar out and engulf the monster. As the smoke rises, Fenrir wonders if Alicia's barrier really saved the city. Everyone looks around for Verdok. Then someone steps through the mist. It's Vivia. They rush to greet him, but something feels off. Vivia pushes them away and tells them to get lost. He attacks without warning. Ariek quickly tells everyone to get into battle mode. They didn't manage to free him from the monster. Vivia laughs and says he's now perfectly fused with the hero. If they acted a little faster, maybe they had a chance. But now they can't beat him with their current strength. Ariek shivers and tells Alicia to set up the strongest barrier she has, but it's no good. She's been trying and nothing's working. They look up and see the sky darkening. Massive boulders start raining down from above. The tsunami roars as Vivia laughs like a maniac. No one can believe where all that water is coming from. Fenrir says it might be an illusion to mess with them, but Ariek corrects her. It's space manipulation. They're trapped in a different dimension, and this place is about to be swallowed by the sea. Everyone is stunned. Ariek realizes that Verdok has reached his perfect form. His power is far greater than before. The demon lord grins, daring them to taste his true power. Towns vanish beneath the waves as he cackles, claiming he's Poseidon, the god of the sea. Now, no one can stop him. The crowd wonders if it's true. Some porters suggest setting up a barrier, but Alicia shakes her head. Since they're inside his domain, barriers won't work here. Verdok laughs again, saying they have no chance of winning against the power of the ocean. Ariek can't believe Verdok hid this strength until now. In any normal situation, they'd be doomed. That makes Verdok uneasy. Even now, they still have hope. Verdok asks if they know the true power of the Holy Spear. It can cut through dimensions, but he believes it's useless now. He mocks Lekri, saying a little girl with a spear is no threat. Ariek calmly tells Lekri to attack a certain spot and aim at the tsunami. She agrees and promises to cut through all the dimensions if that's what it takes. The Demon Lord starts to worry. Even Lekri's teammates doubt her at first, but she asks them for help. Her older sisters step in. Alicia calls on the god of Twilight. Colette summons the Azure Dragon. Fenrir invokes her goddess. Together, they channel their powers into the Holy Spear. The demon is confused, unsure what they're doing. The three beauties bless the spear with their divine magic. Now the spear glows, powered by holy energy. Lekri declares that she'll slice through Purgatory and Ragnarok. With a mighty swing, she tears through the dimension. The rift in space sucks the tsunami away, saving everyone. The Demon Lord begins to lose confidence. Ariek smiles. This is the power of the heavenly spear, reached through the combined strength of the great Saintess, the Dragon Princess, and a holy weapon. Lekri reminds him that he said a little girl was no threat. What does he think now? Alicia yells for him to stop, but the demon just laughs. He's almost out of mana, but he has one last move. He transforms into a puddle of water. Everyone gasps, is trying to escape by blending into the water supply. If he spreads his cursed magic, the entire world could be poisoned. The hero's old party begins to panic. If this happens, it really could destroy everything. Verdok laughs again, satisfied, but Ariek won't let him win. He knows what he has to do. He steps forward, ready to stop the disaster. Everyone cheers. Ariek casts a spell powerful enough to keep the world safe. With steady hands and sharp focus, he brings the madness to an end. Through the harmony of the four gods, the divine dragon, the holy spear, the great saintess, and the beast of 10 saints, magic pours into Ariek. He can finally use harmony for the first time. The gods have divided the world into 4 parts, and each one of them has worked together to protect it. Now that all 4 protectors are united, Ariek is ready to show just a glimpse of their power. The demon can't believe the strength of the light flooding into the sea. Ariek feels the 4 beauties channeling their energy inside him. This light is pure and only something God could have. It will wipe out both the demon and the poison spreading through the sea. Ariek releases blind divine fury, creating a burst of light that burns away the dark poison in the ocean. Through the bubbling water, Vivien floats aimlessly. His body feels heavy, filled with pain. He thinks of himself as a fool and begs Ariake to help him. Ariake pulls him out of the water and looks at him, surprised. He tells the gasping hero that the platform won't last long and that they need to head back to the city. Vivien has been saved, but he is drowning in shame and sorrow. Ariake tells him it's time to return. The crowd cheers for Ariake and his group, calling them the saviors of mankind and incredible people. Ariake is confused. It feels like a parade. Alicia tells him that he did save the world, and they always knew he could do it. Ariake says it was possible only because of all of them. They enjoy being praised by him, and Alicia is relieved they all made it through. He apologizes, but Alicia tells him he has to give her something in return. Just as she's about to say more, Colette steps in and blocks her. They start joking and teasing Alicia, but the clueless hero has no idea what they mean. Later, they have a tea party, still surprised that it's happening inside a carriage. Alicia explains that this carriage was meant for royalty. Before the duel, Vivien and his group used it, and now that Ariake's team has won, it earned this luxury. Ariake still wishes that Vivien will one day become a great hero, but Vivien is throwing a tantrum while his teammates tell him to shut up. He misses Lorelei. Elva says that she and Basta were ordered by the kingdom to continue serving as members of the hero's party, so they went on a journey. Pulala wonders if they can even call themselves a hero's party anymore. Vivien says isn't their fault. The Chancellor was a demon, and how did a demon reach such a high position in their kingdom? But nobody in the kingdom will take responsibility. They'll try to cover up the truth of what happened to them. The group isn't impressed by his thinking. Suddenly, they hear noise outside. Someone tells them that Ariake and his team are being honored by the king. Vivien chooses to go back to sleep. He clenches his fist full of regret. Meanwhile, Lacri gazes at the kingdom and sees Burita's castle. As they reach the entrance, the guard opens the gate. Everyone gets ready to head inside and thanks the carriage driver for his hard work, then tosses him out. Ariake is confused about what's going on when he climbs onto the carriage. He says it feels too weird to get medals and awards, so they're running away. He grabs the horse and vanishes into thin air. Alicia tells everyone not to worry, saying they'll return the carriage once they leave the city. They just want to follow a road the master approves of. They ride off into the sunset. Somewhere else, a twisted woman reads about Ariake and how he even managed to make Alicia fall for him. And now she wants him even more. She looks at the letter and starts shivering. It's about her marriage to Ariake. Just then, Ariake arrives in the room. After leaving Belta, they'd been staying at an inn. Ariake hears her scream and apologizes as he lets himself in. He reaches for the letter, but Alicia tells him he can't look since his name is not on it. He still catches a glimpse. It says the great saintess must marry him to save the main branch of the church from disaster. It is signed by the archbishop. Alicia covers her face in embarrassment, and Ariake is confused about what this marriage is. She tells him not to throw around that word. She tries to explain that marriage means getting closer to someone, and the letter says it will save the church. He figures that if getting close will help, then they should get married and save it. Alicia turns into a bubbling mess and begins to recite vows. Ariake wonders how this marriage thing works and asks if it's something to eat. Alicia slams her fist on the ground in frustration, and her sisters peek in from behind the door, saying she was almost there. Fenrir wonders why the church needs help. Ariake also wants to know more and asks Alicia if she has details. She says the letter just arrived by Crow, and that the church has many enemies. That might be the reason. She begins summarizing the history of the Empire's religion. Originally, the religion was Wisism, which followed the gods of wisdom and intelligence. But about 300 years ago, Brightism appeared. A city and a tower were built on the Eastern Bridge, and a new religion was established. At first, Wisism had more followers, but the change began. It wasn't smooth. Colette wonders why Brightism spread so quickly, and thinks it may have been done on purpose. Lacri asks if the religion is a good one. She mentions that the Kielbergs are followers, and they are quite popular. Ariake explains that this religion follows the god of war. It's a military religion that values strength and believes people should train to protect what matters. So it clearly supports the values of this country. Alicia says violence is not always the answer, but Fenrir reminds her she just smashed the floor. Alicia explains that the first religion preached peace, while Brightism is its opposite. For 300 years, Brightism was spread forcefully. Ariake wonders how such a shift happened since he doesn't know much about it. Lacri suggests that devils must be involved. Brightism treats devils as the ultimate enemy. They are different from humans, dragons, and demons. They are from the underworld and have immense power. They ask if devils really exist. Alicia says there isn't much information. The best record they have is from 200 years ago, and it says anyone who meets a devil dies. Their nature doesn't matter. Because Brightism follows a military worldview, the letter includes an urgent message to save the main branch of the church. Ariake wonders if he should come along, as trouble might be waiting. Alicia says she doesn't want to cause a major issue, but Ariake tells her not to worry. If it is her problem, then it is theirs too. Her heart skips a beat at this, but when he calls her to childhood friend, she freezes. Alicia wonders if it is enough that she's considered important. They set off in a carriage to the holy city of Septino. The girls are exhausted from the bumpy ride and feel carsick. Ariake suggests they take the only road big enough for the carriage. Femmer turns into a small marshmallow cat. Colette wonders if she can turn into a dragon and give them a ride, but the others don't like the idea. Seeing a dragon might scare regular people. As they move down the road, a voice tells them to stop. It's Delia and Pulala who say they want to talk. Ariake wonders what is going on. Delia and Pulala try to charm him, hoping he will go out with them. Alicia and the others are shocked, and the carriage bursts from her rage. Ariake has no idea what's happening. They claim they love him and want him. Alicia yells at them to stop. She accuses them of being shameless. Just as they try to grab Ariake, a beam of light separates them. Alicia yells again, furious they tried to pick him up. Still, the two girls refuse to give up and try to win him over with their charms. Alicia is doing her best to protect Ariake. She's about to cry. Ariake steps in and tells them that it is enough, but they don't listen. It is becoming too much for the others to handle. Then someone suddenly crashes in between them. The girls look ready to take him by force, but Ariake is not someone who can be taken so easily.